Gaming news today is all about the comeback. First, the switch to marketing is right around the corner, and we have their launch plans from reliable industry insiders. Say that 5 times fast. We also know about one prominent game that will not be at the Switch 2 Direct. And speaking of comebacks, the second story today is that Game Informer is back. And not only are they back, they are stressing something that I find to be very important in light of the current state of games media and gaming press coverage. Third, big-time Xbox fans and loyalists are now looking to 2027 to be the year of the Xbox comeback, seeing Steam landing on the hybrid Xbox PC, the potential for that to happen, as the way to make the future PlayStation console, in their minds, irrelevant. I gotta say, it seems a bit out of touch, but we're gonna discuss and consider what the future could look like. And lastly, I do have a game to put on your wish list and your radar that I put there before, but we now have a 1.0 release date. It's actually coming out this summer after some good reception on Steam. Now, if you're watching this later, hit that like button. I know it might not seem like much, but it really does help these videos find more people. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel. Double check that your bell button didn't get switched to like personalized, and consider supporting the channel directly. You get way more talk show when you're at Member Plus. So if you hit join and then you pick Member Plus for $6, you get morning coffee segment, you get the green room segment, in addition to this live segment as well. So let's get into this. What in the world is going on with Nintendo, where the launch plans have leaked? We got a handful of things here, not just their launch plans, but we also have a game that won't be at the Direct. And third, another Direct is allegedly happening this week. So let's just start with their launch plans. We're pulling this from Insider Gaming. They did have the exclusive on this. You want to check them out on Twitter, as well as check out their official site. They claim that the Nintendo Switch 2 will have a 3-phase launch plan for its games. Now, first, they restate something that we already heard from Xstasis. They had heard from folks at the GDC that the Switch 2 release date is set for June. So we now have some corroboration about that claim. It seems that this Nintendo Switch 2 release date is primed and ready to go for June. They also went on to say the following, quote, according to various sources, the Nintendo Switch 2 will launch its games in 3 phases, starting with primarily first-party games on launch. And then the second stage will arrive in October to November for third-party studios, most of which are expecting the dev kits for the Switch 2 to be sent to them in June. And then the third phase will hit during the holiday period. Details about the third phase were not really stated, so maybe a bundle or something. Now, they went on to say that there would be an event next week. Quote, Insider Gaming has also learned that select media and creators will be attending Nintendo Switch 2 hands-on next week, where they will get hands-on with the console and some of its launch games for a few hours. Now, we're going to be co-streaming the Nintendo Switch 2 Direct on April the 2nd at 9 a.m. Eastern, so make sure you are here for that. Make sure you're subscribed for that, reacting, obviously, to the announcements, release date, price point, and all of that. We have more on this situation as well. Xstasis, notable insider and contributor to Insider Gaming, said that their sources have told them that, quote, Metroid Prime 4 won't have a presence in the Nintendo Direct for the Switch 2. Now, he went on to say that nobody really said anything about if the game has been delayed or when we would be seeing more information about the game. Now, if this is true, they could be focusing on non-cross-gen games, since Phase 1 of the launch plans is targeting first-party games. We know that the Metroid game is a cross-gen game. I have speculated that the Mario Kart game they showed in this video here, I have said that I actually think the Mario Kart shown here is going to be an exclusive for Switch 2. It will not be available on the previous Switch, given how popular Mario Kart is and what they show in the actual footage. It's been analyzed by some devs to be quite a step up. Now, another thing about Nintendo, though, they're apparently very busy right now. Another Direct is allegedly happening this week, as the Switch 2 Direct is next week on April the 2nd. Insider Gaming said the following. Just a week before the full Nintendo Switch 2 Direct on April the 2nd, Nintendo is expected to hold a separate event sometime this week. Now, that's according to well-known leaker Nate the Hate. He said that it will be a Direct, but doesn't really know what the format will be. It's Wednesday. I would anticipate if it's happening tomorrow or Friday, we get some kind of an announcement. I don't know if they've officially announced it yet. I don't know if they've actually I'm being told in my live chat that the Nintendo Direct was already announced today. Nintendo Direct has been confirmed for tomorrow, March 27th at 7 a.m. Pacific, 30 minutes featuring upcoming games for the Switch. No updates about Switch 2 during the presentation. Very strange timing that they're doing that. Thank you so much, Cat Uncle and others, for bringing that to my attention right here, sort of thrown in the show open. So, not sure why they're doing that like a week before Switch 2. Maybe they just had a bunch of marketing plans and a bunch of games that simply had to be talked about because of timelines and things like that. So I don't know if we'll co-stream that tomorrow or not. We will see. Nintendo Directs that aren't about the Switch 2 aren't necessarily that exciting right now, unless they have some information about games and how they're going to run on Switch 2. I'm not really that concerned. So, speaking of comebacks, though, Switch is trying to make a comeback with its second Switch. Not that it needs to come back, but you get the point. Game Informer is making a comeback. Game Informer is back, and this is welcome news, even though some were hoping that it had ties to GTA 6 yesterday. GameSpot reported on this, stating that Game Informer is officially back, former staff and Iconic Magazine included. Now, in a post about their comeback, where they indicated the whole team was back, they had more to say as well. In the same post, this is pulling from GameSpot, Game Informer editor-in-chief Matt Miller went on to explain that the outlet was given a new lease on life following its acquisition by game studio Gunzilla. Furthermore, Gunzilla also rehired the entire team of folks working at Game Informer prior to its closure. Miller stated that because of this rehiring, the team is confident that they can maintain an unbroken identity of who we are and what we represent. Now, the thing that stood out to me, they emphasized that they will be operating in an independent way. Here's the quote. Gunzilla, which is currently working on an upcoming Battle Royale game Off the Grid, reportedly assured Game Informer staff that the company will operate independently of the studio, with 100% of the decisions around what we cover and how we do so coming from the site's editorial team. According to Miller, Gunzilla Games sees, quote, the same potential in Game Informer as our team does, and their encouragement to do so ethically and free of outside pressure is laudable. Now listen, I'm just going to say it. In the current state of gaming press, we need more outfits like this, and I've even really been promoting Insider Gaming lately. The way they cover things, the way they shoot for accuracy in their headlines and their reporting, it is a huge indictment to a lot of the gaming press out there that does, I consider, to be a very poor job, or simply fanboyism, or misleading headlines, or just complete obfuscation of the facts. They also added a bunch of back content to their website. You can go to GameInformer.com. They've got reviews of a bunch of the games that have come out. They even have their own Game of the Year list from 2024. Unsurprising, they gave Game of the Year to Astrobot, but their top 10 included some great choices like Prince of Persia and Balatro. So listen, be sure to follow them again on socials. Be sure to follow them again on YouTube. I think it's good to have Game Informer back. I was just saying a couple of days ago that I missed having their reviews for my review roundup. And on the subject of comebacks, is Xbox going to mark some sort of a comeback with Steam? That one image from last week is really causing some waves, to the point that there is now disagreement about what the impact will be of a console PC hybrid that could potentially play Steam games. Now, some are claiming things like, well, what will be the point of a PlayStation 6 if this happens? Which seems incredibly out of touch, given that not all PlayStation games even hit the PC, and they currently hit anywhere from 14 months at the earliest to sometimes upwards of 3 years later. So thinking that consumers will be convinced to switch to this device so that they can then wait on an undetermined amount of time to get PlayStation games, I think is a tad strange in the realm of predictions about consumer behavior. Also, the logic means that the Xbox console's been pointless for a long time, since Xbox has been putting all their games on PC day and date for a while. It's kind of weird seeing Xbox fans arguing that their own console has been pointless for such a long time. Why were you cheering for it if now apparently being able to play games on this hybrid completely invalidates the PlayStation? But a debate has also been brewing about whether or not PlayStation could block games from running on the rumored PC console hybrid. Now, I'm of the opinion that they would want to, as their PC plans are specifically about getting folks to come over to their console for sequels, as was stated by Herman Hulst in an earnings call. He spoke very specifically about their dual approach to bringing games to PC, and they have reported very strong new user acquisition this generation, which repudiates all of the false claims that the console market is stagnant and can't see growth. But it also means that their console games on PC have a particular purpose, and landing on a PC console hybrid may fall outside their aims and their efforts with putting those games over there on Steam, and it may prompt them to block. Now, some are arguing whether or not they would be able to do that, saying, well, there's no Xbox API to block. Well, you can do hardware blocks very easily. In fact, they do it right now regionally. If you buy a game and then move to a region that is locked, you can't play the game. There were a ton of people who suddenly couldn't play Helldivers 2 because their region was locked by the PSN requirement. Now, the PSN requirement was removed, but those region locks have remained. Now, if PlayStation doesn't care, then I would not be quick to celebrate this if you're a die-hard Xbox fan. If PlayStation basically says, yeah, we don't care, you can play our PlayStation games on the Xbox PC hybrid. It would mean that PlayStation officially agrees that Xbox is no longer competition, and it views them as such a non-threat that they'd be okay with games hitting an Xbox-branded machine. It remains to be seen, but for now, we don't really know enough. There's sort of two sides to this discussion and argument, and hey, it's still fun to debate about. I'm sure we'll get into it today. And now I do have a game for your wish list and your radar that I've actually put there before. It's called Lynked, Banner of the Spark. Now, the game has been in early access on Steam since October of 2024, and it has a 91%. Now, it has a 1.0 launch date, and it is May 22nd. The April, May, June field is filling fast. This game is hitting both Steam, the Xbox Series consoles, and the PS5. Here's how they describe the game. In this colorful action RPG, battle waves of enemies in solo or co-op, and then return home and use their parts to craft a thriving town. Assemble your crew and grow stronger with each new adventure. So listen, be sure to check this game out. I like when games utilize early access to gather feedback and get good input from the users, and then to turn around from just sort of the end of last year entering early access and then have a release date of May of this year. I think that's a great turnaround. So again, May 22nd, it's called Lynked. Now it's spelled L-Y. There you go. There's the title. Lynked, Banner of the Spark, 1.0 and console release on May the 22nd. So that's the news. And now it's time for the discussion. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, guys. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for already... We end the show open consistently with 100 likes. So you know what I'm going to say. Make sure you're going through the ritual. Hit the like button. It helps this video find more folks, and that can get us to 200 likes pronto. I know there's probably plenty of you that forgot to click it, or you haven't clicked it just yet, so give it a smack. And then Han shot first, and so did you. The first 5 bomb of the day comes from Joker Quinn. So consistently supporting the channel with support. We are a little behind on pace. We're going to want to end today at 300 to stay on pace for Friday, and Friday is always a full day of fun incentives. I have not thought of something. Do you guys want me to play more Death Stranding with Madam? Did you like that? If you like that, we can make that the incentive again. You guys can kind of chime in right now and influence what we decide to do. That's the benefit of being here. Ritual, I knew we were a cult. That's right. We are a cult. And if you missed morning coffee, you missed a fantastic discussion. That's another great reason to become a member. That's another great reason to decide to support the channel directly. There's an entire hour-long segment every morning that you're missing out on, so consider clicking join. Make sure if you do, you pick Member Plus. So what do you guys think? We got the Nintendo Switch 2 launch plans. We've got the return of Game Informer. We've got an ongoing debate about whether or not this sort of future PC Xbox hybrid and like Steam is going to be, I guess, a game changer on this thing. It's very interesting logic in my mind, basically invalidating the entire Xbox console this gen coming from Xbox fans, which is interesting to say, well, the PlayStation 6 will be pointless because now I'll be able to get, a PC hybrid with Steam on it. I mean, you could have purchased a PC for the last, 7 or 8 years and got Xbox games day and date. First super chat of the day comes from Wired Rope. I don't know what happened. Morning coffee did not show up on my feed. I did not get any notification. I didn't know you were live until I checked the playlist. Yeah, sometimes those member streams don't notify you. Here, let me set the super chat goal. Every 5 super chats, I will gift a member. So every 5 super chats, I gift a member. Thank you guys so much for continuing to support the channel with your memberships. And then Champagne with the Member Plus, is that a renewal or an upgrade? Let me know in chat. Upgrades count as 2. Renewals obviously move the goal, but we like to give you a bit of a double. Shout out to Joker Quinn for the gift. He says Champagne. So Champagne, did you upgrade from a gifted? We've been having people saying that it's been difficult to upgrade from a gifted. Gifted on a sub account, not your main. If you view your subs from another YouTube, you won't see the members only things. That may be, I don't know. Sometimes that was an upgrade. I'm going to count that as 2. Guys, we love to see those upgrades. It's a huge need on the channel. It's how I do this every day. That direct support is extremely helpful. So thank you to everybody who has decided to jump in and support the channel directly like that. We greatly, greatly appreciate it. We feel like doubling down on risk, says Miyako Best Girl. Like, I don't doubt there's negotiation, says Miyako, but it feels to me like Xbox would have to sweeten the pot a lot. I don't know how likely they are to want to do that, what has happened with Game Pass. What exactly are you talking about, Miyako? More importantly, it planted them a known stake in the mindshare in the handheld market largely by Nintendo. And a 5-bomb comes in from Luke Vader, says, let's get back on track, boys. We need to be about twice as high as we are by the end of the day to 300, and Luke's going to throw in to help make that happen. If you guys got a gifted member from Luke, be sure to say thank you. That gives you access to a whole lot of extra content on the channel. And if you like that extra content, be sure to say thank you to Luke. PlayStation dabbles in PC ports to mixed results, but at least they put their console offerings first and they call on people to buy their console. That's why I continue to come back to the idea of Steam landing on an Xbox hybrid. I don't see that being tectonic. I don't see that moving. I mean, that's exciting for me. I've always said, like, to me as a consumer, that's a huge win because then I can just play Steam in my living room rather easily. There was a bunch of games I was trying to grind. Witchfire, Deep Rock Galactic Survivor, Karate Survivor, and I was like, oh, I'd love to grind this, in the living room, and it was just, I just didn't like doing it. Ruinous hits a month at Member Plus. Ruinous, let me know if that is an upgrade, because that bumps the line to 169. Nice, but if it's an upgrade, it'll actually bump it to 170. Thank you very much for doing a month at Member Plus. So, there's so many things wrong, I feel like, with that outlook. It just seems very out of touch to be like, well, we'll be able to play PlayStation games. Well, let's just stop right there. That's not necessarily true. You're not getting every PlayStation game on PC. You're having to wait a random amount of time. There's no pattern. Like, you've had to wait 2 years, sometimes 3 years. Spider-Man 2 was like 14 months. There, and the quality hasn't been great when they increase how fast they show up, right? Rise of the Ronin came rather quickly to PC. Spider-Man 2 came rather quickly to PC, and they both were not good ports. So I don't see that being an invalidating effect to the entire PlayStation platform, because it's like, well, you could buy a PC Xbox hybrid and eventually play PlayStation games that may or may not port, and then they may or may not port at good quality, and they may or may not port at a year, 2 years, or 3 years. Like, it's all a bunch of unknowns. That's not a compelling offer to the consumer. Hey, you should buy this. Why? Well, sometimes PlayStation games come and they come at random intervals, and sometimes, most of the time, the quality's good, but sometimes the quality's bad. Like, there's nothing compelling about that. It's like, so you're telling me I have to wait. You don't know if every game's going to do it. You don't know when they're going to show up, and then sometimes they show up and they're bad quality. Woo, sign me up. Like, that's not compelling at all. And let's just say, for the sake of the discussion, that it is compelling. Well, then you basically just said that Xbox consoles have been irrelevant since Xbox started putting games day and date on PC, because you could go to PC and get all the Xbox games and Steam. I just don't understand the logic. It seems very out of touch. It's not most of the PS5 first-party games going to PC, so from this gen. Most, yeah, but we don't know when. We don't know which. Like, it's not like when Xbox said, we're going to start putting all of our games day and date on PC. That's like a definitive statement. There's no question of timeline. There's no question of release cadence. You just know that that's happening. With PlayStation, when are you going to play Yote on PC? You don't know. You don't know. It could be end of next year. You could wait until 2027 to play Yote on PC. You don't know. Like, since when are we in the business of thinking that like waiting 1 to 2 to sometimes 3 years is like a compelling marketing offer? Like, that's not a compelling offer to people. If I have no FOMO? Yeah, but we're talking about the average consumer. Do you feel like you're in tune with the consumer by postulating that people will wait undetermined amounts of time? Like, when are Gran Turismo 7 and Demon Souls going to PC? Right. Exactly. Do we even have rumors about either of those? When can you play Gran Turismo 7 right now? Can you play Demon Souls Remake right now? Can you? Do you see? It's not even all of them. There are games that you don't get. The interval that they come over is seemingly random. Yeah, you don't have Astrobot. There were rumors that they canceled the Gran Turismo 7 port. We don't even know what's going on with it. Game Logic says, people who already bought Helldivers 2 in non-PSN economic regions can still play the game. What PlayStation did was they went to Steam Publishing, plan only hit D-list or removed from the store in those regions. There were people reporting they could no longer play because they were getting refunds, Game Logic. There were people saying, I can no longer play. Because right now, there are also reports about this that I saw, where people, if you bought a game and you switched to a region where the game was region locked, you couldn't play it in that region. It wouldn't let you. Like, you can switch your region right now, and if you switch your region to a locked region, like, you can't play those games. That's what I was told. That's what I saw reported, was people claiming that if you actually relocate and you land in a region that is locked for particular games, those games will no longer work when you log into your Steam account. It will see the region that you're in, and they will stop working. Sneaky Wolf with a $5 Super Chat tip. If your main concern is to maybe be able to play PlayStation games on the new Xbox, just do yourself a solid and get a PlayStation. Stop being weird. Didn't they just block an NVIDIA GeForce Now? They blocked... I don't think Death Stranding is blocked anymore, but they did block Death Stranding at a time, and then they blocked God of War. So, like, because you could do it on there. And people are like, well, you could go through a browser and you could do it through Boosteroid. I don't think that PlayStation would be okay with it. I just don't think that they would. I think it runs contrary to their PC strategy. We've had this discussion a lot lately, and I keep going back to the same thing. I keep going back to Herman Hulst's commentary to shareholders. When you have that level of specificity to your shareholders and you say, this is our approach to PC. It's a dual approach. Live services day and date, our big tentpole titles, we send them over later. And he doesn't say to maximize profit. He says we send them over later in the hopes that these people would want to come to our console to play a sequel. And then he says they've had success in finding new users. They've been reporting new user acquisition has been quite good. 42% of the people who bought a PS5 last quarter were new users. They're going to report fiscal year 24 a similar number. They're going to report a very similar number. Almost half of the people who bought a PS5 in the previous fiscal year were brand new users. They're having success. I think their games being playable on a console PC hybrid completely goes against that strategy, because that's not a PC. It's more than a PC. It's a PC console hybrid. How are you going to get somebody to come off of that and come to your ecosystem when they know, well, God of War 2018 and Ragnarok are both here. Spider-Man 1 and Spider-Man 2 are both here. I can wait and I'll just get the next game, or I'll just wait, blah, blah, blah. Like, it's not a PC. To me, I think that the shareholders would ask, like, hey, Herman, or whoever's in charge at that point in time in 2027, I imagine Herman will still be there, unless people want to, lie that he got fired or demoted, since neither of those things happened. But hey, headlines gotta get those click rates, right? In 2027, the shareholders could say, hey, how does this square with our strategy? You're putting games on PC in an effort, that strategy orbits around our console. The console is central to PlayStation's strategy. Oh, we're taking games over there in an effort, because people always say this. They're like, oh, if they put the games day and date, they'd make more money. And they'll point to Helldivers 2 and how 60% of the sales of Helldivers 2 were on PC. And the reason that PlayStation is not compelled by that is because you have to listen to their intentions with PC. Their intentions with PC is not to maximize profit. It's to convince people, we make great games, you might want to come over here and play the sequel. And then he says, we've had success doing this. We're getting new users, okay? And then they've been reporting ever since he said that, they've been consistently drawing attention to new user acquisition, which, by the way, that completely repudiates and refutes all the false claims from the green side, because we just repeat everything Phil says, because, you know, he's always telling the truth, right? We just repeat everything Phil says. So, yeah, the console market is stagnant. It's not growing. You can't get new users, and yet PlayStation's somehow figuring out a way to do it, and they're also hitting record MAUs, as evidenced by the fact that they're getting new users. So they are seeing growth in the console market, even though you've been told for, you know, the last 12 to 18 months that it's not possible. So if that's their goal in going to PC, a PC console hybrid doesn't fit into that. It doesn't fit into that strategy. It doesn't. That's different. That's not a PC. It's a device that will appeal to the more casual console base who likes to plug something into their TV very easily. As Jez Corden has described it, it'll be a TV-friendly shell that can do PC and Xbox. New users in, old users out. The max is still the same, if I read that correct. No, they've had they can't hit a new record MAU if that's true, Jake. You don't hit a new monthly active user number if what you're saying is true. They're not getting new users to the same degree that they're losing old. They're getting new users in addition to the existing ones that they have. They still have a ton of people that are stuck on PS4 that haven't made the jump yet. The reason that they have a higher MAU is because new people are jumping into PS5 while plenty are happy to stay on their PS4, giving them a larger user base than they've ever had before. They're literally doing the thing that we've been told isn't possible. And they haven't even really cracked in to the Chinese market with the China Hero Project yet. They haven't even done it. Like, once they do that, you will see the new user acquisition and the MAU go up again. It's going to go up again. They're cracking into markets that have almost no console presence whatsoever. China and India specifically. D the Great says, check my message when you can. What everyone is missing also is that Sony will put some coding in their game patch that prevent Xbox Steam OS from playing those games so people can chaw that up. Listen, they don't have to do anything in the code of the game, brother. They don't have to do anything in the code of the game. The publisher of the game on Steam can determine where it is playable. This is a fact. PlayStation right now could pick up the phone or send an email to Steam and say, Canada can't play our games. They could just do that. They could just region lock all of Canada. Sorry, Canada. You have to drown your sorrows in maple syrup. You can't play PlayStation games. They could do that with one click of a button. They're in control of where the game is playable. Now, if you believe that that doesn't apply to a console PC hybrid that enters the market as a new piece of technology, they 100% could make a simple phone call and say, hey, we want that hardware blocked. We want that hardware ID blocked. Our games are not playing on that. We are not okay with that. They're in total control of where the product lands. Now, I don't care either way. But I'm here to tell you, I think PlayStation shareholders would care. I do. I think they would be like, you told us that we have a dual approach with PC that centers around our console. A PC console hybrid, that ain't that. That's something new. Hardware ID? What, you think you're going to be able to spoof hardware on this thing? Misinformation? They can totally block hardware ID. Do you understand what a hardware ban is? Have you ever heard of that? Have you ever heard of a console ban where people have to get a new console? There's no hardware ID that comes across the Steam API, only the Steam ID. You're assuming that would be the relationship on this console hybrid box, that there would be no way for them to say, we don't want it to run on that hardware. The idea that PlayStation can't control this is absurd to me. Like, it's their game, and you think they're powerless. That Xbox can just put this into the market and be like, nah, can't stop us. We can play your games now because we're allowing Steam to be installed. You think they'd allow for a sub fee? Hang on one second, I missed some upgrade. Zinthos with a VIP, 42 months. Hope you and the fam are well. FCAT with 5 months and a member plus. Xbox OS will register as a Windows 32 for Sony. To block it, they would have to have Steam block the games on all Windows 32 devices. No, that's simply untrue. Like, the idea that they would not be able to say, this piece of hardware can't play our games. PlayStation is 100% in control of where their games are playable. They're in control of it. They can tell Steam, we don't want our game played in that region. I'm fairly certain they could say, we don't want our game played on that device. I'm not saying Sony can't or won't fight for a change, but that's not the technical implementation today. That will require policy and changes. But you don't know what the technical implementation of this hybrid is, Game Logic. You're applying logic to the existing PCs in the market. That's not what this thing would be. That's not what this thing would be. It would be something entirely new right now. Like, imagine with me that somehow right now, my Series X, they push out the ability for me to download Steam and install it. That's not going to be identical to what happens when I boot up Steam on my PC. It would be different. Meaning, PlayStation could step in and say, we do not want our games playable on an Xbox Series X via this Steam application that you guys launched, or whatever it was. Maybe it's just a SteamOS emulator or something. I don't know. It seems impossible for me to believe that, like, this thing's just going to be exactly like the PC sitting in my room right now. And so all the rules that apply to Steam on my Windows machine would be identical to the rules of this alleged hybrid. Xbox and PlayStation use technically proprietary processors that aren't available to PC builders. PlayStation compiler could just not generate code compatible for the Xbox-specific hardware, says Percito. Hang on. Sorry. Kids are having a rough morning. They're having a rough morning with school. Okay, what were we talking about? What were we talking about? $5 from Wide Rope. There's nothing burger. There's nothing. Oh, this is a nothing burger till the console's actually out. PlayStation and Xbox use AMD Zen 2 processors. Just custom package future hardware is, you know. I mean, I just keep coming back to the fact that it's going to be brand new. This isn't just going to be a PC. Learn how to read, sorry. I was like, this is nothing burger. I was like, huh? Creature says, let's pretend for a second that Sony can't find a way to block the machine at a hardware level, LOL. I bet a letter from Sony's legal department will block it quick, fast, and in a hurry. Right, that's what I just keep coming back to. It's like PlayStation can determine where their property shows up and is playable. They're in control of that. Like, you can't just make a brand new device. Like, right now, if they pushed out an update to the Series X, changed the operating system, and allowed you to install Steam, you can't be like, well, it's Steam, so PlayStation can't do anything about it. Like, what? I'm pretty sure that they can. I'm pretty sure they could say, hey, we have a pretty significant problem with that. We never agreed to that. When we entered into an agreement with Steam, we did not agree to that. That's my point. If perceived brand confusion, then a cease and desist letter. Why would they care if users are paying for the games on Steam? Again, I'm just going to always go back to, you've got to listen to the shareholders' calls. You've got to listen to the earnings calls, because this is where you get the very, very clear directives, right? And Herman Hulst made it very clear. They aren't putting games on Steam just to make money, bro. That's not what they're doing. Listen to what he says. The intention has nothing to do with money. If it was all about money, they'd be looking to shrink timelines and port games to PC faster, because they know staggering a year to 2 to 3 years or whatever, like that hurts sales. They get less sales on PC when you wait, 2 or 3 years. They don't seem bothered by that. Now, maybe that's why they brought Spider-Man 2 faster. Maybe they were hoping to generate more sales, but then obviously reception and the porting quality was pretty bad. But Herman Hulst makes it very clear. He's like, you bring games to PC in 2 different ways. We are bringing games to PC in 2 different ways. Live service day and date, big narrative tentpoles come later in the hopes of coaxing people to our platform. A PC console hybrid doesn't plug into that strategy. It doesn't. Their strategy doesn't line up with that. That is not why they're bringing games to Steam. They're not bringing games to Steam to make money. And they're like, well, the Xbox hybrid, that's just more consumers buying our game. No. Their strategy centers around the console. That's just not true. What's just not true? What have I said that isn't true? I've only spoken facts about what Herman Hulst has said. Jack Garn with a $5 super chat tip. The hybrid is taking to heart the advice of, if you can only afford one console, get a PC. Not you, the guy who added me. Oh, okay. Sorry, Miyako. I was like, I'm not saying anything that isn't true. This is just the intentions of the company, why they're bringing games to Steam. He said the intention was to bring them into the ecosystem, not just for buying a console, but also movies and TV. Right, but the point is, we're not just going over there to make money. He wants them to convert. They want new users. That's why they keep highlighting new users in their fiscal reports. When they're highlighting new users in their fiscal reports, they're communicating to their shareholders, our strategy's working. We're getting new users. Our MAUs just hit a record number. They're signaling to the shareholders that their plan is working. So it stands to reason, if an Xbox console PC hybrid comes to the market, the shareholders are going to want to know, how does that play into our strategy of taking our very valuable property and taking it over to a different platform? How does that jive with our strategy? Are we going to get new users if they can play Spider-Man 3 on an Xbox PC hybrid when we port it over? That, I think, is a fair question for the shareholders to ask. Is this going to be, at any level, disruptive to our strategy? If they determine that it is, you better believe they're going to request that the games not be playable, and I feel like that request would be honored. I don't think Steam would thumb their nose at PlayStation and be like, nope, you can't control where the games go. Hiroki did say last year that they want to improve their first-party content with PC. They need to hurry. I mean, I know Rise of the Ronin isn't their game, but it was a PlayStation exclusive. It was a PlayStation exclusive, and then, Spider-Man 2, that's probably the most embarrassing port outside of The Last of Us Part 1. It's why we have containerization and virtualization in the first place, to not have to go through all the effort of implementing that degree of change. Got some Sprecher last night. Oh, I'm glad it showed up. You don't understand, Lono. Steam is like the Robin Hood and can steal games for consumers. FF7 is best on PC. I mean, best on the right PC. The FF7 on Pro footage that I saw, it looked pretty good. It certainly isn't very good on PS5. It had a lot of issues, but the Pro was like a night and day difference according to Digital Foundry. Like, saying anything's best on PC always has to be qualified. Well, best on the right PC. I could probably get a better experience of Final Fantasy VII Rebirth on my Pro versus my 6-year-old rig. Anyone know the code for the soda? Going to make an order? There you go. There's the link in chat. You just go to spreckerbrewery.com, use code LONO, or if you click on that link, it'll work as well, because it does like the whole / reference Lono thing. You always need an asterisk. Right, like, yeah, is it best on like a $500 PC or an $800 PC that you got from Walmart? No, probably not. Like, PC's not like universally better. Like, that's a continued, debate point that we keep, running into. And I said it in my show open. Let's just say that PlayStation doesn't care. Let's just say, for the sake of the argument, we can get into like, well, they can block hardware ID, and everyone's like, well, they wouldn't know the hardware ID because of how Steam works on your PC right now. Okay, so I'm supposed to believe that an Xbox PC hybrid that can install Steam wouldn't know what the hardware ID is. So, like, they couldn't hardware ban you then in a game? That's not possible, right? You're playing a game on Steam, and you cheat, and they ban you. Well, couldn't you just log out of Steam, log in again, and do it again? The hardware bans exist for a reason on console, so, you would think that Microsoft would have some level of that in place so they could continue to do things like that. They do hardware bans right now, and you got to get a whole new console. You're not spoofing your console. But let's just say, for the sake of the discussion, that PlayStation doesn't care. I don't think that that's the win that you think it is. That's not a win. If PlayStation shrugs this off and says, who cares? They'll sell less than, there's 30 million Series X's and S's. Okay. They'll sell 10, maybe 20 million of these things. Who knows? I don't know. Maybe it's a doorbuster and everybody wants one. If PlayStation determines that they don't care, this isn't a W. If you're bleed green, if you're hyper loyal, that's not a W. That means PlayStation's like, yeah, we don't consider you a threat, like, at all. That's fine. Our games can go over there. The Xbox PC is just going to be another iteration of the Windows core with more Microsoft stuff baked in, with Steam filling gaps that they might need. I bet it will be offered as a standalone too. The optics wouldn't be good for them. Play PlayStation on an Xbox. Right. I keep coming back to that one. The unknown. I keep coming back to that. That you 100% would have people saying, well, wow, you can play PlayStation games on an Xbox, and PlayStation would probably have a problem with that. It doesn't matter to me either way. I was in support of Helldivers going to Xbox. I was celebrating Tsushima going to PC. Because I was like, yeah, more people playing the game. That's awesome. I want more people to play Ghost of Tsushima and Returnal. And I thought it was great and obviously a little entertaining that when Death Stranding 1 landed on Xbox, it was suddenly a good game. That was interesting. It went from being mocked and made fun of to being like, oh, this game's actually really fun. We'll see if any of those people actually roll credits on it, because it's a beefy game. I'm like 33 hours in, and I think I'm at like 62%. So I've still got a ways to go. I started with it 4 years ago, and I'm playing it now on my Pro, and it's great. Returnal can't play with an Xbox controller? Huh? Are you sure about that? If I go to Returnal on Steam, it's going to say it's not compatible with an Xbox controller? Why would you need the DualSense? No, right here. What you're saying is untrue. Returnal's right here on Steam, and if you just scroll down, full controller support for Xbox controller, DualShock, DualSense. Yeah. What are you talking about? You can play that with anything. They could 100% play Returnal on an Xbox. You wouldn't get like the haptic feedback like when the rain stuff happens. You wouldn't get the haptic feedback. But that's cool, but that's not like, oh, you can't play the game now. That happened with the Persona games too. Went from creepy anime games for this to being loved. I'm a proponent of you make your bed, you lie on it. They get nothing. I think he's saying he can't play with it. Because I can't either. I can't use another controller after the DualSense. Oh, I mean, I love my DualSense. Yeah, I don't like when I have to use the Xbox controller now. I used to love the Xbox controller more. I still don't like anytime I've touched a PlayStation 4 controller. It's like made for hamster hands. But the DualSense is like, I feel like it reminds me of the it really reminds me of the 360 controller, like its shape and size. Which I still think that's one of the best controllers ever made, the Xbox 360 controller. I still love Xbox controllers more. There was a time where, yeah, I mean, I used a Cronus to play with Xbox controllers on my PS4 Pro. I couldn't do it. We all know you have tiny hands. That's what I'm saying. I don't even have large hands, and the PS4 controller felt like it was made for hamster hands. I was like, this is so little. Like, what is this? I do love the DualSense. My only gripe is the battery. Other than that, it's a decent controller. Battery's never been a real issue with me. DualSense Edge, obviously, you know. I need Microsoft to build me a DualSense Elite controller. I mean, they're going third party anyway. That's not going to happen. If you guys haven't hit the like button yet, be sure to do that. We have a variety of ways of supporting the channel. A lot of you guys have been using the soda command. We did recently team up with Sprecher. They make great I don't drink. I'm not a soda drinker. I don't like caffeine after my coffee. I have my coffee in the morning and that's it. So you can use the soda command. That supports me. But also, this is not a sponsor. Maybe you're not a soda drinker, but maybe you're a coffee drinker. Reforge Roast is another great way to support. The most direct way to support monetarily is with a membership. If you can afford it, it does support the channel directly. $6 a month, and your show doesn't end here. You get a much longer show. You basically get to go from 9 in the morning until 3 in the afternoon Eastern instead of just this one show in the middle. You get all three. No, we do not ship the coffee to Europe, and Sprecher doesn't either. Shipping international is ridiculous. You'll spend more on the shipping than the product itself. That's why a lot of companies don't do it now. It's absurd. That's why we don't do it. It's like, I love that people want to support me, but I just thought it was silly for you to buy like, you know, $17 to $30 worth of coffee and then giving $50 to $60 to the post office. That just seems silly to me. I'm taking the position now that I must not understand how computers work. It's the only way I'm going to survive these convos. So Zubair, and I obviously had to step away, so I missed some of the conversation. Do you agree, Zubair? I mean, why are people thinking that like PlayStation would not be able to block their games from working on a PC console hybrid? I'm just confused by that. Xbox brings a piece of hardware to the market. It's theirs. I'm not talking about like the Asus handheld end of this year. That's not what I'm talking about. That's going to be a handheld PC with the Xbox brand on it. I don't think they're going to be concerned about that. I'm talking about Xbox builds a console, allows it to be sideloaded with Steam, and you're like, yeah, PlayStation can't do anything about that. People think PlayStation can't block it because they have green tinted glasses. Zubair says, I'm with you. It's not hard to control what software runs. People act like it's a wide open PC with no controls while also being locked down to the Xbox console. They sure can block the games. I just can't see why they would. If I was a betting man, I would bet that they care and not, I wouldn't bet on the, PlayStation won't care. I wouldn't bet on that. I would bet that they do care. They didn't even let Lego Horizon go to Xbox. Like Lego Horizon hit PC and Switch, and they didn't let it go to Xbox. I don't think that they would. That to me would be very much, some brand dilution. What happened to morning coffee? It should just be in the playlist, Jeremy. Whether they care is a good and worthwhile argument to have. I could be compelled to either side, and I'm here to tell you, neither side is a compelling look for Xbox, right? Neither side's a very compelling look. It's like, oh no, yeah, you still can't play. No, I'm sorry. It would not be a very compelling offer to say, buy this PC console hybrid ... that actually can't play all the games in Steam. All the PlayStation games are locked. So you're getting like a lesser version of Steam. That's not a good look. That's not very compelling. On the other hand, if they're like, yeah, we don't care, let them go over there, that's not a good look either. It basically means PlayStation's not even threatened by Xbox anymore. They're like, yeah, they're not even our competition. Who cares? Why block something if it may boost sales? Because I keep coming back to this. If you listen to when they talk about why they're putting games on PC, Herman Holst was speaking to the shareholders, and he said, we're doing this in a dual approach way, day and date for live service games, because they want to maximize the player funnel. That maximizes potential for success, as is evidenced by Helldivers. And then it's like, but then he says, our other approach is our big single-player tentpole titles, they go later, in the hopes of coaxing people to our ecosystem for a sequel. Like, basically, we want to get conversions out of this. He doesn't say, yeah, we're putting God of War on Steam because we want to make more money. He's like, no, we're putting it over there hoping that people want to come over and play sequels. And he speaks to the fact that they've had success with new users. And you'll notice in a lot of their financial reporting, starting in 2023, they started highlighting the fact that they were getting a lot of new users. In 2023, they said that a third of their user base on PlayStation 5 did not have a PS4. And their recent fiscal reporting, they said, yeah, in the fourth quarter, 42% of the people who bought a PS5 were new users. They're highlighting that because they're signaling to the shareholders, our plan is working. What we're doing is working. We're getting new people into the ecosystem. It's why they also celebrated MAU as monthly active users. They hit a record high MAU last quarter of like 129 million or something like that. I don't understand why the focus is not PlayStation games anyway. There are hundreds, if not thousands, of other games that will be available. I love the idea. 2Spot from Wired Rope. If Valve makes a console, would they block them? That's an excellent question. That's an excellent question. Would they see that as, that's not a PC? AOZ says, if game devs didn't care where their games were played, why would they not let games play on the cloud or GeForce Now? There are plenty of reasons. This is one of the reasons that when we've spoken about Xbox's strategy of like everything's an Xbox, even though that's not true. I know they're saying that right now, but it's just more false promises from them. If you hear them say, this is an Xbox, and you go and turn on your Fire Stick or your handheld, this Asus handheld end of the year, it's not going to be an Xbox. It's not going to be able to play everything that your Xbox can play. I don't believe Holst thinks he's getting one-to-one conversions. Sure, PlayStation asks some, I don't know what that word was supposed to be, that some PC players will just buy PlayStation PC games, sign up for PSN, and that's the end of their engagement. Well, Herman didn't even indicate that they were hoping for one-to-one. I don't think he even indicated that that was their hope. It was that, yeah, we'll get some of them to come over. Think about it. Somebody might have done it for Ragnarok. Somebody might have done it for Spider-Man 2, and they could be very different consumers. They weren't compelled by God of War, but they might have been compelled by Spider-Man. They might be compelled by Wolverine. Maybe they played Spider-Man 1 and 2, and they see Wolverine, and they're like, I can't wait. I'm not waiting. Absolutely not. Maybe they played Death Stranding, and they see those Death Stranding 2 trailers, and what did the Death Stranding 2 trailer do to me? It made me go back and give the game another shot. A bunch of people are going back and giving the game another shot. Sequels are compelling. And there might be a bunch of dudes on PC right now that are like, I don't know if I want to wait for Death Stranding 2. That thing looks insane. I think it's the front runner for Game of the Year. Just based off the trailers and how we know the press reacts to Kojima, I'm here to tell you, Death Stranding 2 by itself is going to compel some folks to jump. And then, yeah, GTA 6. And Xanatos with 32 months and a member plus, the new slogan just needs to be, this was an Xbox. Thank you at Bumps the Line to 172. Not by hitting. Pubs and devs don't let their games play on cloud and GeForce Now when they are not getting paid. That's when they have blocked these games. Again, by negotiations, but by getting a remote kill switch. I think PlayStation would just say, we're not okay with it. I think it's as simple as that. I mean, I don't know if the discussion would go much further than that. I think PlayStation would just say, we're not okay with that. We don't want our games over there. Just like they did with, with GeForce Now. They'd be like, no, it can't work. We're not allowing that. They would figure out a way. They would either reach an amicable agreement with Steam. They would just reach out to Steam and say, we entered into an agreement with you, and we are not okay with this. You need to ensure that these games are not playable on that device. Can you play PlayStation games on GeForce Now? I don't know. All I know is what I was told and what I was shown. And what I was shown was, at the time that Death Stranding and like God of War were available on PC, you couldn't play them through GeForce Now. They were blocked. I don't know what the current status is. Oftentimes, I'll repeat something that is said in chat, and then people will claim I'm lying. And it's like, I'm just repeating what people said. I've not been able to look into it, but that's what I have been told. That there were at a time, and potentially still are, PlayStation games that you can't play on GeForce Now through your Xbox. Or just in general, I don't know. I don't do anything with those services. I don't have an interest in it. Exclusives are bad. Exclusives are bad. Fights over sales and corporate money. The complete and total creation of narratives. If there's one thing I give Xbox and Microsoft credit for, they know how to move a herd. Oh. Exclusives are bad. Fights over sales and corporate money. I got what you're doing, Divisive. I was like, huh? People are talking about more sales. Isn't this hybrid still geared towards current Xbox users? And we know most of them don't buy games already. Well, this is where some of the dialogue surrounding this device became, what's the point of the PlayStation 6? Right? Well, what's the point of the PlayStation 6? I can buy this device and I get everything. You could say the same thing about PCs for the last, 7 or 8 years. Why buy an Xbox? Because you could get PlayStation games as they ported over. You could get Xbox games day and date, and you could get all of Steam. You didn't see this groundswell of people. Think about it like this. When Xbox made that shift and that move to putting all their games on PC, and then PlayStation started porting their games to PC, did that invalidate the PlayStation 5? Let's look at the sales reports. Does it seem like the PlayStation 5 was invalidated by that presence in the market, that you could basically buy a PC and get everything? No. PS5's doing fine. It's outpacing PS4 in the US market. They're getting new users. They don't seem to be affected by it at all. I don't think in 2027 a console PC hybrid is going to suddenly invalidate the PlayStation. Like, well, I can wait 1 to 2 to 3 years and I can get the PlayStation games. Well, some of the PlayStation games. I can't get all. Like, you still don't have Demon's Souls Remake and Gran Turismo 7. So, like, you can't get all. You can get some. So, I just think that's out of touch with consumer behavior. I don't think consumers will be compelled by this. I think consumers like me will be compelled by it. I'll be like, that's great. Steam in my living room. Let's go. Bloop. Hook me up. I'll take one. Everybody else? The lion's share of the market that's heavily leaning towards PlayStation and will also be buying Switch 2s, I don't think they're going to be like, well, there you go. I don't need anything else. I'll just buy that. A game that shows up on a PC hybrid Xbox 15 months or more after a game initially launches on PlayStation is not the same value proposition. The Xbox influencer effort to draw an equivalency is cringe. Well, and that's why I said Game Logic. I'm not into calling anybody out. I saw that narrative. I saw that being stated. I saw that being agreed with. And I said, okay, I think this is so incredibly out of touch. Because you just basically hilariously argued that the Xbox console's been irrelevant for a really long time. And an Xbox, you know, the folks who bleed green and lean Xbox, they wouldn't have said that. That sounds like a pony. Ponies were saying that. Ponies were saying that. Once Xbox started putting games day and date on PC, they were saying that. I never thought that. I bought a Series X. I was never thinking, oh, I can't wait to play Xbox games on my PC. I wanted them on the console. And then I was very frustrated that I had to play Starfield and Hellblade 2 on my PC so that I could get 60 FPS. I've never been on the wavelength of like, oh, well, because you were putting your games on PC, you invalidated your Xbox. I never thought that was true. I don't even think that's why they struggled to sell hardware this gen. I don't think that's why. I don't think that was it. I think it was because of the split offer and the lack of big first-party killer apps. I think that was the main problem. Lone Wolf says, I think it's possible they won't care, speaking to PlayStation here. Their strategy could work on people who buy the Xbox PC hybrid and get them to buy a PlayStation 6 for sequels. Yeah, I mean, if the timing of the PlayStation 6 is, you know, later, I've been speculating that it would be later. People are like, oh, PlayStation 6 is going to be 2028. I'm like, it's probably going to be 2029. I could be wrong, but let's say I'm correct and it's 2029. Well, that's 2 years. 2 years for this Xbox hybrid to probably hit its peak and then start to decline, right? Those first, well, usually you would hope it's 3 to 4 years of a climb and then a decline, but I don't think this will be in high demand. That's my own personal prediction. A 9-year generation? Yeah. 4 years in, they said they were entering the latter half. So it stands to reason that at the earliest, it would be 2028. If you're halfway through the gen at 4 years, that means there's going to be another 4. So 2028 is probably the earliest. I think they'll go 2029. I think that Project Amethyst and what they've discovered and what they're working on and how the PS5 Pro, like what it brought to the market, I think they're going to try to stagger the next... They'll try to stagger it. I mean, again, that's just my prediction. There's no evidence to support what I'm saying other than them saying we're entering the latter half. I mean, I think that supports the notion that 2028 is the earliest. But there's no evidence to support my prediction about 2029. It's just a gut feeling that I have. That's all. Just a gut feeling that they're going to try and extend this gen's life. Some of that's related to the sickie and the pandemic in 2020. Some of that's related to the dev cycles of the games. Some of that's related to the late, the late dev cycles of games that are going to try to tap into the power of the PS5 Pro. I think the dev cycles of the games is playing the biggest role. Games that are being developed right now, they're entering production right now, and they're aiming at landing in like 2028, 2029. Those will be cross-gen titles. Pushing it out in like 2027 or 2028, 2029 gives you a little bit more time. Again, that's just my gut. Can you read what Daniel Flores is saying? He's stuck in a loop. I just checked GeForce Now on NVIDIA Shield TV. The only one that supports 4K 4090, and there are 0 PlayStation games on the service at the moment. Thank you, Daniel, for looking into that for me. Parasito says, I'm struggling to understand. Hang on, I gotta scroll up. I'm struggling to understand the point of this console. If they're trying to capture the Steam market on Xbox, why would I settle for less performant box instead of just another PC for the TV? I agree with that, Paris. I agree with that sentiment. That you're not going to get the PC boys. Why? It's not going to be modular. Well, I mean, it could be, but it stands to reason that it probably wouldn't be modular, which means you can't upgrade your RAM or your CPU or your GPU in the future. And that's a big turnoff to the PC boys, I would think. Second part of your comment. If they are allowing Steam games, what's stopping devs from publishing Xbox exclusives on Steam for better payment splits and publisher agreements? Xbox would lose all their publishing deals. We spoke about that yesterday, Parasito. We spoke about that yesterday. Why would you even make an Xbox version of a game anymore? No, Champagne. Yeah, I'm talking to Parasito. Yeah. Parasito's been around for a long time. That was a question brought up yesterday. I think it was in the green room. Why on earth with a third-party publisher, a third-party developer, why on earth would you make a game? Why would you make a game for the Xbox? You would just make a game for Steam and be like, that's all we need to do. It's a game, it's an executable installable in Windows, and you can just get it in Steam. Does Xbox care if they don't make an Xbox version anymore? I mean, there's the $1 million question. There's the $1 million question. Does Xbox even care? Are they like, that's fine? And a $5 super chat tip from Dwayne, and a $5 super chat from Joker Quinn, making it rain confetto. I owe you guys a member. Dwayne says not everyone can afford a gaming PC. That's why Microsoft is still doing consoles. Not everyone has the funds. If you look at the actual threshold of people who pay into the gaming market, targeting those with lower funds is a bad idea. I'm not saying that in a disrespectful way. If you look at the threshold of people that spend in this market, targeting people who don't have funds is not a good idea. This is a luxury market, and the average annual income of the households that spend in the gaming market is like 6 figures and up. So if you're below that and you're struggling to have money to buy things, targeting that spectrum of consumer with your gaming or your tech is a bad idea. They're not a good target audience because they're typically not the ones spending in this market. Joker Quinn with the $5 super chat says, according to IGN, Intergalactic isn't going to make 2026. They interviewed Neil. Yeah, I haven't looked at the interview. Let me reset the super chat goal. I find that to be a tad weird. Why wouldn't they have just saved that for the summer of this year then? Like, if you would have announced Intergalactic in the summer of 2025, I'd be like, yeah, that might show up 2027. It might not show up next year. You showed up at the end of 2024. PlayStation lately, and this is just my read of things, PlayStation doesn't not like to announce things super far in advance anymore. They did it with Wolverine, and they haven't really done it since. So I don't know why they would start. Like, Saros got announced after Intergalactic, and it's coming next year. So, like, logically, that doesn't... I don't know. That math doesn't math. It's like, why'd you announce it then? What the frick was the point of that? What was the point of that? If it's literally all of 2025, all of 2026, if it's more than 2 years away, it's really out of character for PlayStation to announce something with a trailer like that. They've really moved away from that. Neil never said that. It's from Jason Schreier's post and reset era. He said that The Witcher 4 and Intergalactic are not coming in 2026. So Schreier's saying that. But Schreier's usually got really, really good intel, though. I feel like Jason Schreier from Bloomberg, when he says that he's heard this or he's seen this, I feel like you can take that to the bank. 3 years of memberships from Moody. 3 whole years, man. And I owe you guys a member, so I'm going to bump this to 174. We're 1 away from me owing you guys some members as well. Every 25, I gift 5. The super chats, I gift 1. And we greatly appreciate everybody who makes that possible. Okay. Hang on. I'm trying to pay the membership that I owe you guys. There we go. Jason said 2026. Because Naughty Dog released nothing but remasters and remakes this gen and canceled Factions 2, they needed to escape the bad PR. That's not what that trailer spoke to me. That trailer spoke to me that they had quite a bit of work done. And a 5 bomb of members from Game Logic. We've been going back and forth today with good perspectives and insight and opinions, and he's now gifting some members. Parasito says, this entire thing just smells like Windows wanting to be everywhere, so they're moving towards Xbox and Windows being the same thing. They're really just wanting Xbox to be PC apps. I mean, I will admit that Microsoft seems to be driving virtually every initiative that we're seeing as of late, to me, that is probably not a great sign. You don't want Microsoft in charge. You don't want Microsoft in charge. They are a ruthless utilitarian software company. They don't have creativity in their DNA. You don't want them. You don't want them. You swear every time that you hear gay logic. No, game logic. Y'all think it's going to take Naughty Dog 7 years to make a game? Third-party companies already put them on the Microsoft Store. Why would they stop? Lack of adoption, lack of sales, not worth the ROI. I don't know. You know what I mean? The gaming division working solely on Windows is a good thing for everyone. I love seeing this person surprised that Microsoft hasn't hardly done anything with ABK properties after the acquisition. I don't know why anybody's surprised by that. Many of us tried to draw attention to the fact that, like, you bought a third-party company that was already bringing games to the market, and now those games are remaining third-party. What the frick did people think? Can we get... Look, let's scramble on the like count. Let's scramble for 300 likes. I need you guys to all take a brief moment and make sure you have smashed the like button. It really does help us out. I mean it. It seems so trivial, but it's true. If you smash that like button and we hit those new milestones, it does help us out, especially when we have a nice strong day like today. I think I was on Mooch when I said this. I was on Crossfire, and I said, I don't know why anybody is celebrating this purchase, because it's not additive. They're buying games that are in development, that are already coming to the market, and people are like wanting to celebrate that. Like you want to give Xbox credit for Diablo and Call of Duty and games that were either already coming to the market or already in the market. They just, I don't understand. They just slap their name on it. It's not, and people are surprised. Like, well, yeah, they've not really done anything with it. What, pray tell, would they have done with it? You guys turned off your critical thinking, and you shook your tail feathers, and you turned into cheerleaders for an unprecedented acquisition, and you turned off your critical thinking. And now that the dust is settled, you're like, well, they're not doing anything with it. What the frick would they do with it? The games are just going to keep coming to the market. Woohoo! Yeah! Sweet! Oh my gosh, they bought Call of Duty, and a Call of Duty came out. Uh-huh. Yep. You're right. I mean, I know. If you're on Game Pass, you get those games. Okay? That's what all this was about? That's what all the bluster? That's what all the drama? That's what all the fighting was about? So that you could buy less games? Wow, that's interesting. That's such an interesting. That is a really interesting outlook on the. It's a real interesting outlook on the industry. Cheering for anything that can allow you to spend less money. You really won. I mean, you really won. You really did. I mean, Day and Date moved to Ultimate, and Ultimate's more expensive. Wow. I mean, you really racked up a lot of points there. Three years from now, calling it. That's funny. This is a funny picture. Parasito said, That happened to me. That happened to me just this morning. I was working in Photoshop on my laptop, and I'm like, get the frick on, get out of here. Oh, man. Oh. What did Zubair say? Wait, didn't they expect Microsoft to open up the purse and just dump billions into these devs and get new games every year? Did YouTube change the default video size? I don't know. Just wait till Microsoft, check my last in Discord. It's probably been that way for a decade and they haven't stopped. What's the straw that breaks a camel's back for them? Yeah, I mean, I think brand loyalty is an interesting thing to study and to discuss. I do. I think it's interesting because I don't resonate with brand loyalty. I don't. It took me no time at all to. I switched from Nintendo to PC. I switched from PC to 360, 360 to Xbox One. I had a PS4 Pro, and then I immediately jumped to PC when I knew I could play games at 60. And then I had no problem leaving PC behind to come back to console. And then I had no problem primarily playing on my PlayStation. I've always said I don't give brands loyalty, I give them money. I'm not loyal to PlayStation. If PlayStation starts doing something I don't like, or they start bringing games out day and date and they're running better on PC and I've got a really nice PC, or I've got a way to PC game in my living room in a convenient way, I'll switch then too. I don't care. Doesn't matter to me. I'm just going to go where I feel like I'm getting the best results. So, and guys, really quickly, only about 10 people hit like when we did a little like run. We got to hit 300 likes. We got to. I know YouTube acts squirrely sometimes and doesn't save your like, but we got to do that. We got to do the thing. We got to tell YouTube what it wants to hear. We got to play the YouTube game. In the grand scheme of things, I don't understand like unwavering brand loyalty. I don't get it. I went on a rant recently and I was just like, what have they done to earn loyalty and trust? What have they done? Like, let's just take for example the fact that Phil Spencer's been saying things for the past couple of years, and these guys will just parrot it. Well, why do you trust him? Why? I don't. What's he done to earn that trust? What? Why are you taking anything that man says to the bank? The checks are going to bounce 9 times out of 10. We're buying ZeniMax to bring you more exclusives where Game Pass lives. Well, that's not true anymore. Just 4 games. This isn't a signal that more games are coming. Well, that's not true. I mean, look at what he said about. Look what he said when we was talking about Baldur's Gate 3 and split screen at Gamescom. He tells Destin Legary, he says, yeah, there's no issue with the hardware. It comes down to the devs and their choices. 24 hours later, Larian just publicly, in my opinion, embarrasses him and is like, well, we're just going to ship Baldur's Gate 3 and Series S isn't going to get split screen. Do you see what I'm saying? What's he done to earn so much trust? He's out here saying all kinds of stuff now, and it's getting parroted once again. Console market's not growing, it's stagnant. Can't get new users. That's not true. And listen, I did a little experiment over the last couple of months, and I noticed something. If you press against what Phil says, he's like a nerve. You know when you you go to the doctor and they hit your knee and your leg goes up? All you got to do is press against what Phil says, and you'll notice there are people who are very quick to just rise to the defense of what he said, and they'll ridicule, criticize, and disagree with you. Isn't that interesting? It was just a little experiment that I did. It was like, I'm not going to get into this thing with people. I'm just going to rail against what Phil has said, what Xbox is saying. And pressing on a nerve, people are provoked into defending it. Just an interesting observation that I'm making. Very quick to defend it. I find that to be very interesting. Almost as if there's some kind of a concerted effort to spread this stuff. Like, I can't make heads or tails of what's going on. It's like, it's so bewildering to me. It's bewildering. Let me just give you an example. What happened? It's the same for both sides? No, it's not. And I'm going to prove it to you. What happened when PlayStation said, we're going to require PSN for Helldivers 2 on Steam? What happened? Revolt, riot, anger, to the degree that they walk it back. And the continued pushback from that audience has been, don't do that, don't do that, don't you dare do that. What was the consensus from the PlayStation loyal about the live service game push and about Concord? What were the PlayStation loyal doing? Most of them were extremely critical. Called Concord a waste, called it a flop, called it trash. Right? Jim Ryan was heavily criticized by PlayStation loyal for pushing the live service thing. He has been heavily criticized by the PlayStation loyal for that. They're not out here like parroting what the man says. But everything Phil says just turns into gospel. It's completely different. Like, just analyzing from afar, I'm like, this is just really interesting. If PlayStation does something and the PlayStation audience disagrees with it, buddy, that's everywhere. It's on the thumbnails. It's the topic of the shows. It's on the tweets. It's in the social spaces. But, like, this weird concerted efforts to continue to push this idea that, like, PlayStation's done a bad job this gen and Xbox is the real winner. I'm like, I don't even know. It's like bizarro. Concord had some people posting that it was amazing. There were people that were enjoying it, but I'm talking about, by and large, the commentary around live service and Jim Ryan, Paul, was not people... You want to get specific about Concord. Ignore Concord for a second. I have noticed a concerted effort over the last couple of years. The PlayStation loyal heavily disagreed with Jim Ryan and his views on live service and the push into live service. There was no like, oh no, this is a good idea, this is a great idea, this is smart. To me, I find the whole thing to be bizarre. It's like the marketing and the evangelistic efforts to paint Xbox as some kind of a winner and PlayStation as some kind of a loser. It's like just basic objective market analysis. I don't know how you could conclude that. Do you have a calculator? Can you add things up and subtract things? Like, I don't know how anybody would conclude these things. This isn't subjective opinion about where you prefer to play. These are claims made about who's done a better job this gen. I don't know, man. The whole thing's bizarre to me. I would have expected a lot more consternation, complaint, and anger, and vitriol, and abandonment. Not like continued loyalty. Look at how they react to something like Redfall versus how the Sony guys react to Concord. Even to this day, they'll defend Redfall. Yeah, I think that's an interesting study as well. The degree to which 30 FPS was defended, the degree to which Redfall was defended. And the PlayStation guys are like, get this slop out of here. I don't know. Everybody cheers. Everybody has their bias. But there just seems to be this very, very weird undercurrent of agreeance. There's this undercurrent of going with whatever Microsoft says. And I'm like, I don't know why you would have any trust or loyalty at this point to the brand. it's like, yes, they said this and they didn't make good on the promise. Yes, they said this and they didn't make good on the promise. Yes, they said this and they didn't make good on the promise. But now I trust them to make good on what they're saying. Now I trust. It's like I don't understand it at all. I can't connect to it mentally. I can't. It's like the cliche in the movie or the romance movie or the TV show or the drama where they're like, well, no, now he's going to be a nice person. It's like, oh, okay. Now he's going to stop lying to me. Xbox pushback didn't really start until the schism when some big influencers got fed up and they defected last year. For years, those of us who spoke out against Phil and Xbox got ostracized and excommunicated. And a 5-bomb comes in from Siege Master. He says, boys, we're behind. We got to end the day at 300 to be on pace. Thank you very much, Siege Master. And Lone Wolf, you said I misunderstood your question. Let me scroll back up. What were you saying? No, my question was about third-party devs continuing to put games on Microsoft Store and PC. Huh? But it's probably been that way for a decade and they haven't stopped. What's the straw that breaks the camel's back for them to stop? Oh, what's the straw for them to stop making the games? Right, lack of return. If the return gets below it worth being done. Like, imagine if this thing lands in 2027. That's around the time that games will stop shipping on Series S and X. You're 7 years into the gen, right? That's when that will begin. It won't happen like blanketedly, but it will start to happen, okay? So they'll start making games that don't land on they'll start making games that do not land on Series S and X. And at that point, if they feel like it's not worth making games for the Xbox Game Store and just making them for Steam, again, I don't know how difficult that is. If it's just a matter of like shipping a different executable to a different storefront, then it probably doesn't matter. But I feel like the Game Pass games on Xbox Game Store have been different than Steam a number of times. I feel like that's happened a number of times. Phil spent years fostering a buddy customer relationship with the guys, and the guys at Sony kept it strictly a customer relationship. Yeah, I mean, I've made that observation before. I don't see a lot of that. I don't see like, you know, Jim Ryan and Herman Hulse yucking it up on podcasts with people. Stop comparing it to buying pants and comparing it to choosing a religion that'll make sense. Yeah, I think that's well stated, Zuby. Like, this level of loyalty grows out of something that's more driven by identity. Like, they take a lot of identity. And listen, I get it, and I have a certain level of respect for people that they take that identity and they kind of wear it. We literally watched a clip the other day where Boomstick said, "If you cut me, I bleed green." And listen, I have a certain level of respect for somebody that'll just say that. They're just like, "If you cut me, I bleed green. I'm on that team." Like, oh, well, I mean, there's a level of integrity and honesty in that. That doesn't mean I'm gonna agree with what he says. It doesn't mean I'm gonna agree with his takes or his predictions. Agreeance, you know, isn't needed to see that, like, well, at least he's telling you, if you cut me, you know, I bleed green. So I get that. I get people that get to the point where they're like, this is their team to the bitter end. I mean, there are people like that with sports, right? They'll cheer for a sports dynasty through thick and thin, through bad management, through bad seasons, through fumbled playoffs or choked championships, and they'll just stick with them. The reason that I kind of struggle with it, yeah, like Browns fans. Like, I grew up watching the Browns lose every single Sunday, right? I'm from Northern Ohio originally. So, like, but when I get into products like this, the reason that I can't connect with that level of brand loyalty is I'm like, if a game company starts to do something that I don't like, I'm out. I'm out. Why would I continue to play here or give you my money? I'm not getting what I want. There's a problem with brand loyalty when you then relieve yourself of any mandate for integrity and honesty, and you spread misinformation, disinformation in the name of stumping for the brand. Well, and it's been a really interesting experience, Game Logic. Like, I never would have anticipated being accused so often of spreading misinformation and lies. And it's like, what? Like, huh? Me? Really? But I think it's become so ingrained in people that, like, if you go against the narrative, then you're not telling the truth. If someone cuts me, I bleed red, but I would rather bleed blue. At least Browns fans aren't going, suck it, Chiefs. We got more yardage this season. We totally owned you. A $10 super chat from True SSJ Havoc says, it makes sense for the fanboys. Last gen Xbox guys were used to losing, and they did absurd things, from lying as usual to getting sued for real world damages. Not sure about why all the outlets switched. Lono, the woke lib Sony pony e-begging grifter. That's right. I should take this opportunity to say, as a former Cowboys fan, they are trash. It's not a dialogue because they believe they have the moral high ground, and so anything they do is fine in the service of the greater good. With sports, though, I was lucky because my favorite team has been successful most of my life and had a few down years. They're starting to be bad recently. Game Logic, like me, they accuse me in an effort to discredit any objective, evidentiary, tangible disproof of their fanfic. They can't allow for it. The easily influenced might start listening. Yeah, it's difficult. We kind of got into that subject this morning. Like, I really like the fact that there has been sort of a universal sigh of therapy going on Twitter. You know, Fighting Cowboy had his rant go viral, and now Assassin's Creed's Twitter account is just out here bodying and ratioing like the grift. They're just like, just shut the frick up. Like, we're all sick of you, right? But I was talking about it in Morning Coffee this morning. Like, it's so hard to broach that subject and not get pulled down into the muck and the mire. Is gaming healing? I made a prediction about this year, Broken Lobo. I said that the anti-woke grifters would they would pick a lot of bad targets, they would miss, and they'd be seen to be completely and utterly wrong and out of touch, and then they'd have to pivot away from gaming, because that's kind of what I was hoping for. And buddy, they've struck out like 3 months in a row, just swing and a miss, swing and a miss, swing and a miss. And the gaming community spoke very loud and clear yesterday that they're on Assassin's Creed side. They're like, we're on this side. We're not on your side. You've got people on your side for sure. You do. You got people on your side. But people are clearly, there's a silent majority that doesn't want to get into the muck and the mire, that doesn't want to get targeted, that doesn't want to get attacked. But there's a silent majority that's like, frick yeah, shut the frick up. Shut up. Like, all you got to do is look at the response to those tweets, and it's very clear. There is a silent majority that is fed up with that dialogue. And we're all at the same time saying, like, enough is enough. Just get the frick out of here. You were never a part of this to begin with. You jumped in, and you're all a bunch of imposters. 25 months from Catwalk. On to the next 25. Thank you for the VIP. That gets us to 185. We're 15 away from 200. Thank you very much. Most people are sane, reasonable people in the middle of the bell curve. Right, and so for me, there's a reason that Fighting Cowboys rant went viral. There's a reason that those ratioed tweets happened. It's because I think there are more people that are sick of it and don't want to say anything. They don't want to get involved, but they'll silently cheer from the sidelines and say, yes, we're tired of this crap. It has nothing to do with gaming. It's always exaggerated. It's always misrepresented. You know, there's so much dishonesty going on about it. and people are sick of it. So it's like, but how do I get into that subject, like, without it turning into a lightning rod of, yeah, come and attack me, or, yeah, you know, I don't want to become the anti to 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 the, like, just all the way down. Like, well, we're anti this. Well, I'm anti the anti. It's like down we go into the never-ending cycle. I worry that the other grifters have enough people to pander that they keep turning up like a bad penny. Yeah, I think that is part of the problem. That is part of the problem. That we talked about this in Morning Coffee, how I believe there is a gigantic group of very angry, disenfranchised men across the globe. A lot of them are, percentage-wise, there's probably a lot of them in America. Right? They feel disenfranchised, feel attacked, and a lot of that gaming stuff, a lot of the, you know, the anti-woke gaming stuff, it really resonated with them, right? It resonated with them to have something to attack, to have something to villainize, and to give you that sense of, like, living out that fantasy of, like, we're going to save gaming, we're going to be the heroes, right? And so I think the content resonates with people that are in that scenario. And what I've been continually trying to say is, like, this is not the way. It doesn't come across as, you know, stoic, wise, discerning, masculine. It seems like it's just given over to emotion. It seems like very boyish and immature. And I've been continuing to try to say that. And MASH with the 20 bomb takes us all the way to 205 in the blink of an eye. And now I owe you guys 10 members. Thank you so much, MASH. I don't know what the answer is. Like, I don't know how to give content and opinion pieces and videos to strike a chord with these guys. It's like, get out of this cycle. It's not healthy. It's destructive. Your anger, your frustration is legitimate. It is. You have been mistreated. You have been villainized. You have been cast to the side. You have been. This is not the way out of that. You're just being emotionally manipulated. Like, I don't know how to broach that subject and give people, like, meaningful, thoughtful content that just doesn't get pulled down into that tug of war, that mire of, well, then because, you know, I've been labeled like a woke liberal, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like, I'm the furthest thing from that. But I also just see how unhealthy this is. I know, I get why it's appealing. I really do. I get why it's appealing. $5 super chat from True SSJ Havoc says, if you forgot the absurd things of the Xbox Loyal videos, peeing on PlayStations, stalking people at stores and getting sued for $10,000 in damages, I don't know what you're referring to. Hang on. Add the card. Yes. Okay. Oh yeah, I need to mark this. Hang on. We did product placement. Let me save that. Yes, we have a Discord. Yes. The Discord is where the members can hang out, and you don't have to worry about, like, text limitations. There's a live chat in there. There's a live audio feed as well in the Discord for members. So you can go in there and type up, like, a 15, paragraph document for me to read. I'm not going to read all of it, but there is that less of a character limit in there. I wish I could increase the character limit on YouTube, honestly. Lobo says, Lono, I respect your empathy, but do most guys really feel this way? If you work on yourself, you see results. The most divisive takes thrive on the internet, not in the real world. Well, you have to ask yourself, Lobo, Why did the videos and the tweets do so well? Why? Why? Why do they do so well? They do well because people agree with it. I said this back in the day. I don't like critical drinkers' take on gaming. Often I am like completely in disagreement with, and I find it to be largely misrepresentative of the games that he typically talks about. But when he and a lot of those guys were going after The Acolyte, the Star Wars show, and they were being critical of it, and they were getting millions and millions of views, and people were trying to claim that like they were, you know, actively harming the show. It's like, no. Their videos were resonating with a fan base that was furious. You don't get 1 million views on a video criticizing The Acolyte because you're like evangelizing and convincing people to dislike the Acolyte. It was because people disliked it. Do you see? There were people that were upset and the content spoke to them. So when I look at the anti-woke grift and I look at the content and I look at the tweets, I'm like, this is resonating with people for a reason. They feel a certain way. They feel that this is true. They feel that this is a problem that needs to be solved. I think there's a lot of, and I especially think it's mostly dudes. There's a lot of dudes out there that are pissed at the world and they want somebody to blame, and this gives them somebody to blame. What is this? Engage with it. Oh, hang on. I was getting an email. I thought it was something about announcements forthcoming, chat, very soon. RoboCop, Texas Chainsaw, Digimon are the monthly games for April. Yeah, I saw that. The PS Plus stuff, just dropped. I mean, I can show it to you. There's not much to say other than here are the games for April. April monthly games available download. You got RoboCop Rogue City, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and Digimon Hacker's Memory. There you go. Digimonstery Cyber Sleuth. There you go. It's wild. I've never felt even close to that as a guy, so it's hard to imagine how people are feeling that intense. Okay. Let me draw an analogy. Right? Ooh, that felt so good. I like stretched my legs out and I got like 2 really good pops. That felt amazing. I don't agree with some of the stuff you say, says Mash, but I respect that you can articulate it in a reasonable way, and I can do the same. We don't have to agree to continue to talk. This is exactly right, Mash. And by the way, thank you again, Mash, for your ongoing support of what we do here, and I owe you guys 10 members. I'm going to do that now. All right, let me draw an analogy. After I read this super chat, let me kind of try to paint a picture for you. True SSJ Havoc with a $5 super chat. My last chat was just some of the weird things that Xbox fans were doing last gen because their console was losing. No, not that all the Xbox guys. Got it. I understand. Okay. And guys, make sure you're hitting the dollar sign at the bottom of the chat. You may have a membership to celebrate. If you want to support the channel directly, if you like what I'm saying, if you like the vibe, if you like the open dialogue, I'm trying to be, more understanding of other positions and trying to be more, agreeable and even in the midst of disagreement. If you like that, consider supporting directly. Click join and pick Member Plus. We're trying to get the Member Plus number as high as we can get it, because really so many of you are on Gifteds every month, and we celebrate that, but we also... We need more folks jumping in and supporting the channel directly. We do this full time. So let me paint a picture for you, okay? I basically lived in a live service game for about 5 years, about half of a decade. The vast majority of my time in games was spent in a game called Destiny 1 and Destiny 2. And it really affected my ability to enjoy other games. It really limited my palette. It really limited my scope, okay? Once I stopped playing Destiny and I started playing other games, I started to go through a transformative process. We did From Fridays. I played Dark Souls 3. Beating Ishin and Sekiro was sort of like a spiritual moment for me. That might seem crazy, but it was. It sort of changed me as a gamer. Rolling credits on Returnal was a very similar experience. Playing through Ghost of Tsushima and and seeing Jin wrestle with vengeance versus justice, which is something very personal to me and everything I've been through, right? And there was a time where he meditated, and there was like a haiku about being like a lone pebble causing differences and being strong and enduring, and that being, it almost made me emotional when that happened in the game, right? So I started having all these other experiences, and it really changed my outlook on games and my experiences. Now, let's imagine another timeline where I would have stayed in Destiny, and I would have kept that sort of narrow view, and I would have sort of kept that narrow experience, and I wouldn't have had all those other experiences. I would be, at some level, a very sort of narrow-minded gamer because of that. Now, I'm drawing an analogy to people who sort of live in a live service game of terminally online Twitter. That's the live service game that they play. It keeps them narrow, and it keeps them angry. And buddy, they're in there every day. They've got their bounties to run. They've got their dailies to run. They are in that live service every single day. So their inability to self-reflect, the lack of self-awareness, they don't see how villainous they've become. They don't see how toxic they've become because, man, they're in it. I didn't see how limiting playing a live service game was. I didn't really see it. Not until even recently. I kind of looked back and I'm like, one of the catalysts to me playing other games and changing my opinion about rogues, and even the fact that I'm enjoying Death Stranding, that's nuts. If you know me and you've been around, I've been streaming for 10 years. If you know me and you've been a part of my journey, the fact that I've got like 32 hours in Death Stranding is a huge testimony to the fact that like I've really changed a lot as a gamer. And I really think the catalyst was breaking free of that live service part-time job, full-time job, whatever you want to call it. And I think that's where a lot of these guys are. I think they play the daily live service game of Twitter. They're chasing, achievements and points, and they think they're winning, and it's all digital, it's all fake. It doesn't matter. If that website detonated tomorrow and never came back, everything they've ever, worked on, celebrated, or done is all gone. I have a friend who got 400 days on Destiny 2, and what you're saying is facts. Again, if you draw a parallel to that, to people who are sort of terminally online and they're on Twitter, it's the same thing. Think about what happened to you when you took a break from the live service game, when you got out of that monotonous wheel of just always in, every time, running it to run it, to run it, to run it, to run it, to run it. And you're like, what am I doing? What am I doing? Imagine that as an analogy to what a lot of these guys are doing every single day on Twitter. That's the live service game that they're playing. It's infected their schema. It's infected how they view the world and themselves. It's distorted them. There's an end of on the latest Project 86 album. He's got a whole song about that. And when the song ends, he says, "And now you don't exist." Like the idea that level of integration into tech and into social spaces that aren't real, I think the person ceases to exist as well. You're not really there anymore. You exist in some weird digital figment of your own imagination as well. It's just a total figment of like the zeros and ones on the screen. And now you don't exist. Like, who are you at that point? You're kind of nobody. You don't actually occupy reality or space. You're plugged in. So again, I draw that analogy to live service games. It's like you got to break the cycle. You got to get out, And that's why I think they'll latch on. They'll latch on to tweets and movements and this anti-woke thing. Why? Well, because they're playing a live service game, and those are villains to be conquered. Those are wars to be won. That's what I think a lot of these guys are in that frame of mind. Should people have loved on WoW for 20 years, it doesn't make them any lesser because you play other games. I didn't say lesser. I said it keeps you narrow in what you experience. I didn't say that was a negative. I didn't say it was a negative. It kept me narrow. It made it hard for me to enjoy other games. It made me hard for me to appreciate other games because I had to get back to Destiny. You're taking the view that I'm better because I play more games. I never said that. I said it allowed me to be less narrow, and it opened my mind to other experiences. I'm drawing an analogy to, if you're in that live service social media thing, you're not opening yourself up to like other perspectives and other ideas, and so it kind of blunts you. I think you could argue, Paul, that I do think I experience gaming in a better way now. Obviously, that's subjective to me. But I do think I experience games in a better way now. I get to experience a broader spectrum of games. I get to, when I'm playing the game, there is a greater sense of mirth and enjoyment because it's not drudgery. It's not sort of like this, it's not sort of this like part-time job thing where like I feel like I'm punching a time card in a game, right? How'd you get there? I play more equals I'm better. He didn't say anything. Yeah. I could get why he thought that's what I was saying, because I have really enjoyed the journey that I've been on. I've enjoyed it. I really have. I feel like I enjoy games more now than I used to because I'm not in that sort of that live service drudgery. When something becomes more monotonous, more familiar, more drudgery, I actually think enjoyment goes down. I do. I think your enjoyment, dopamine probably goes down as well. I had over 7,000 hours in Destiny, and every time a new game came out, all I did was keep thinking about what I could have done in Destiny, so I ran back. Do you think a company like Ubisoft failing would be better for gaming or worse? I mean, I think in a real, dispassionate sort of zero empathy way, I think that the market supports the value and it rejects the lack of value just sort of automatically, like survival of the fittest, right? But I also think diagnosing how something like that happens is really important. Like when we got sort of the autopsy on 343 and Halo Infinite, right? I don't think we should celebrate loss of talent and that studio doing poorly and lots of people like losing their jobs. Like, you've got really talented people. I mean, case in point, we're just talking about Destiny. Pete Parsons basically admitted to running the company into the red by spinning up a bunch of incubation projects and having people working on a bunch of other things. And then the quality of Destiny went down. And so the cash slowed down and the interest slowed down. And when the cash and the interest and demand slows down, now you're in the red. Now you're in trouble. Now people lose their jobs. That's like an executive level decision that leads to loss of talent. I'm not going to celebrate that. Be like, woohoo, less people in the market making great stuff. So like, yes, the market corrects and sort of handles these sorts of things. Like, I kept telling people that were like, oh, this is going to ruin gaming. I'm like, listen, the market will course correct. Really, really cringy writing and really, really preachy games like what we got in Pieces of Veilguard, the market's going to reject that and studios are going to stop doing it if they want to make money, right? That's generally how it works. But I don't think we want to go to like Ubisoft and be like, woohoo, yeah, people are going to lose their jobs. That's what they deserve. What the frick? Like, why would we celebrate that? They're a long-standing studio that's made some really great games. We've all got great memories in Ubisoft games. And because at an executive level, they did production line gaming, and they pushed out Skull and Bones, and they pushed out Avatar, and they pushed out Star Wars, and they pushed out a bunch of financial failures. Why would we then celebrate like, oh yeah, whoop whoop, that's what the market's supposed to do, layoffs, like Grum's out here basically preemptively celebrating downsizing and layoffs at Ubisoft. You shouldn't celebrate that. You shouldn't want that to happen. It's the result of bad decisions, but it's not, I think the biggest problem with it is it's not the cause and effect that you would want to see. It isn't. The guys at the top are always protected from this crap, and they get golden parachutes, and they get to retire and live the fat cat life. The talent, the people that make the games, they're the ones that suffer the brunt of this crap. So I don't think I'm ever going to be like, yep, survival of the fittest, that's the way that it goes, when the people that probably deserve to lose their jobs don't. Yeah, celebrating games failing and celebrating people losing their jobs is very much anti-gamer energy. Like, you're not pro-gamer, you're not pro-gaming if you're celebrating that. You're betraying brazen ignorance about how the industry even works. I have some people to thank, hang on. Parasito gifted a member, and Petrov with a 2-month member plus, 1 day at a time, and then Polarin with 23 months of member plus. Getting back, mate. Fall asleep. To you all the time, thanks so much. That is 3 members to 208. We're a little behind pace. We want to end the day at 300 members. Thank you guys so much. Thank our Marvel bet for Parasito's gifted. Creature weighed in and said, key point, Ubisoft being different is better. I hate that they had to fail to be different, but they have to be different than what they've done for the last 7 to 8 years. Yeah, and unfortunately, their course correction is probably going to be really freaking painful. You're going to lose a lot of people and studios, I bet. Tenor Dude with 42 months, thank you so much. That's 209 members on the week. Thank you. If Ubisoft failed, it'll be catastrophic to devs inside the company and outside. Have some empathy to developers who have nothing to do with bad writing and launching not finished games. I'm never going to do the virtue signal, like fake alligator tears on Twitter over layoffs. I find that to be insulting, right? People lose their jobs and you're like, hey, everybody, I just want to make sure that you don't forget about me today. I want you to know that I'm really compassionate and loving. But shut up. Shut up. No one cares about that. You know, that one stand-up comedian's got that bit. Like when a tragedy happens and it's like, hey, everybody, when this big terrible thing happened, I want to make sure you don't forget about me. Like, that's right on the nose. Like, I'm not doing this false virtue signal grab of like, look how nice I am and I care about people losing their jobs. It's not about you. And secondly, I am making it about me. I like games and I like playing games. And the more successful studios and the more talented people that stay in the industry, that's better for me. I'm not going to posture like I know these people and I'm like brokenhearted over them losing their jobs. That's so fake and phony and see-through. It's just fake. It's just a way to prove, make me look nice. Shut up. Like, it's all about what's good for the industry, and we're all in this together. So yes, it's better when games come out and are successful. People get to keep their jobs, reinvestment into the studio, growth of the studio, bandwidth expansion, less crunch, higher quality games. I get more, I spend more, and the cycle continues. We're all benefiting from that. So like the glib sort of, weak grab at virtue of alligator tears on Twitter, I don't think that does anything. Educating people on why it's important for studios and talent to stay in the industry and why that's good for you. Cheering on the destruction of Ubisoft because you're like, oh, I don't like the fact that the guy's black and there's gay stuff. Like, okay, yeah, light the world on fire over something so inconsequential and then less talent, less games, less things for you to play. Or less talent, less bandwidth, games get rushed to market, less quality, and the cycle continues down and down, compounding itself into oblivion. Tenor Dude with 42 months at a member plus, and Pathalon Phoenix with the 5 bomb, and that gets us to 15 members. We're a 10 bomb away from me owing you guys some more members and a $5 super chat from Jack Garland. It's never good to celebrate devs losing their jobs, except that the guy who developed Monhun's co-op system, that guy's got to go. And a member plus from Paul at 32 months. Wait, would a golden parachute not cause you to drop faster? What's the benefit? It's not literal, Paul. It's not literal. Ubisoft is fine. Shadows just broke a PlayStation record. Yeah, but that's not going to be enough to save Ubisoft. Like, that's the new narrative. The new narrative now is, well, the game didn't flop. All their efforts to make it flop or hope that it would flop or not do well, all their efforts failed. So now they're moving to, oh, well, it's not going to save Ubisoft. What? No, that was never the argument. That was never the discussion. We were never talking about whether or not Assassin's Creed Shadows could save Ubisoft. I saw a guy leave a comment that said, I just wanted to play as a Japanese guy in feudal Japan, and I wrote such a scathing reply about the literal dozens of such games, but then I deleted it. What's the point? Or compare it to an indie game that has nothing to do with it. Well, what's hilarious is how convenient that comparison is, Paul. Assassin's Creed Shadows was at the top, in the top 2, top 3, both global and US, top seller on Steam since it came out. How long is that other game going to be up there? It doesn't really matter. They could be up there for 2 weeks. Who cares? You see, what they do is they create this idea. It's a total false notion that one game's success is the diminishment of this game's success. Right? Like, if you and I are selling houses and I make $1 million in a year and you make 1.7 million, you didn't take away from me. Like, that doesn't diminish the fact that I made $1 million. It doesn't. Now, maybe you could say, well, he encroached on your territory and sold houses that you were trying to get. No. One game selling really, really well isn't a diminishment of the success of another game. If a game sells well, is profitable, and makes a ton of money, and they're good to go, they're good for reinvestment, they're good for next project, and another game comes along and sells even better, that doesn't suddenly make that game a failure. These people are so juvenile, they don't understand, like, just basic business, just the basics of business. It's like, so you could always compare one game to another. Well, it didn't sell as many copies as Monster Hunter Wilds, therefore it's a failure. You sound stupid. I'm sorry. There's not a nice way to say this. You just sound stupid. Maybe you are. Sorry if you're stupid. If you're not stupid, then stop acting stupid. One game's success isn't suddenly upended by another game being more successful. That's stupid. It's broken logic. There's nothing logical about that. It's petulant and childish. Is all it is. Well, yeah, this game's doing better. Okay. Oh, okay. So? It's just unproductive tribalism. It's just unproductive. Instead of celebrating the fact that we've been waiting for a long time to go to feudal Japan in Assassin's Creed, and we got a great Assassin's Creed game, both technically and, you know, from a commercial reception to the user reception, you know, even the tech breakdowns, all of that, you know, it's done so well, and we're out here talking about all these things that aren't even attached to the game. They don't matter. Dr. Phil would say, "Did you just fall out of the dumb tree?" These people act like Steam accounts for 99% of all sales. Well, and that's why I was so glad that got shot to sunshine, because I kept trying to tell people that. I kept trying to say, listen, Assassin's Creed has a stronger history on console. It has a stronger history on console. And sure enough, 73% of the sales are on console. Wow, I'm so shocked that the vast majority of purchases, three-fourths are console. Wow, that's shocking. What a shocking development. No one could have prepared me for this. Yeah, the memes of the names on these chairs. I feel like this is more accurate. This is cruel. This is cruel. I'm tweeting that. I'm tweeting that, Paris. Console game sells mostly on console film at 11. These people also act like... Oh, I already read that, sorry. It's almost always the transmutation of a subjective preference into an objective statement about the state of the market. Since we won the battle this month, let's start getting ready for Clair Obscure Expedition 33 when the community brings back the grift of today's gamers don't like turn-based games, they're boring. How do you feel about the patch that removed destroying shrines? I feel like that was tactical. I feel like they wanted to remove any last bastion of criticism that I don't think it's valid at all. There's zero validity to the criticism because historically speaking, Assassin's Creed games, you're going into sacred spaces and holy spaces and committing murder and climbing on things. That's like, you couldn't do something more offensive in a holy place or a sacred place. Shedding blood. Like, so no, I don't think there was any legitimacy to the criticism. I think it was forced. I call it forced fragility. Like, we act like people are super, super fragile. But I felt like it was a tactical move to be like, no, we're not going to give you a single inch of anything to say about this game. If you want to talk about someone's race, you get to wear that in the public. You get to be out here on Main Street saying that you don't want to play as a black guy. And I like that people have to wear that. And then they try to claim, like, historical accuracy, though. Shut the frick up. None of these games have ever been historically accurate. Does the Pope count as holy? Yeah, I mean, to the billions of Catholics across the world, you know, what they did with the Pope in that one game could have been, you could argue, is extremely offensive. The Japanese Parliament spoke on the matter, Snoop, because people inquired, what if people play this game or see those clips and then go and desecrate real shrines in real life? And they were like, we would take that very seriously. As in, we'll prosecute people doing things like that. It would be no different than, like, if a game took place in modern Washington, D.C. and allowed you to do things to, you know, I don't know, the Capitol building or something. And if that came up in a press release and a government official was like, listen, if people are inspired from this game to do something to an actual government building, we take that very seriously. That's not anybody saying, oh, we take the game very seriously. They're like, listen, if people do this in real life, yeah, we'll take decisive action. So I thought that was a, you know, this was obviously, it was forced. Again, I call it forced fragility. It was like, we're going to act like people are fragile and upset about this. It was literally, yes, if you break the law, yeah, we're going to act accordingly, right? Nobody complained when an Italian man, Ezio, was in a Turkish Ottoman or English Edward Kenway in the African Spanish Caribbeans. Only now. The argument just has no substance. It doesn't have substance, which is why I think not allowing people to destroy the shrines was a tactical move. It was a tactical move. They were basically saying, if you're going to complain about something, you're going to complain about a guy being black, or you're going to complain about people being able to choose a gay romance option. Make your choice. Like, I kind of respect it. I kind of respect the Assassin's Creed Twitter account swagger to be like, make your choice. What are you going to complain about? You can't complain about the shrine thing anymore. We fixed that. So what are you going to complain about? You want to hide behind some kind of fake virtue about shrines being destroyed? Yep, not anymore. We don't express third-party outrage for the Jehovah's Witnesses every time Christmas is depicted in a video game. Ghost of Yote will carry Shadow. What do you mean? I don't understand that sentence. Why aren't more of my brothers complaining about having to play as a chick? Manly men don't play as chicks. They do if they're hot. That's the exception. They didn't have any problem playing as Eve in Stellar Blade. They thought that was great. You should watch the latest video of the Metatron for a balanced view on the matter. I'm not familiar with who that is. No, the canon mode does not have the romance in it. I believe the canon mode avoids the romance entirely. Because we were talking about this the other day. Like, you can completely avoid romance, as many people would. As many people would. They would say, you know, the stoic lack of attachment would have been more common. To say no attachments, that would be a distraction. Yasuke parkours right through wood doors. That's all the parkour he needs. That's right. Yeah, he runs through things. I think my only complaint about controlling Yasuke was it was honestly difficult at times for me. The transition into sprinting, it's like he goes from a light jog to a slightly faster jog. And I'm like, I can't really tell the difference. And when you're doing the slightly faster jog, you crash through doors. And Game Logic with another 5-bomb gets us to 221. Thank you for the continued support and the good conversation, Game Logic. We are now 4 away from the next milestone. Thank you very, very much. Every 25, I give 5. Asmund had fun playing as Yasuke. I always thought Ubisoft games are trash because they all seem to have the same formula. But they're my favorite comfort games. I mean, that's what I was talking about a little bit ago. Like, one of the things that happened with Ubisoft is they got into what I call production line gaming, which is just do another one, just do another one, just do another one, right? Like a new Madden every year, a new Call of Duty every year, a new Assassin's Creed. Like, that's production line gaming. They did it with AC, they did it with Far Cry, right? They did it with Avatar Frontiers of Pandora. And a 5-bomb comes in from Classic, and that's an Agent of Chaos that puts us at 226. I owe you guys 5 members. We'll see if you can't keep the train going. We should do a multiplier on that. I wish we could do that, like a train where, like, if it keeps going, then I would owe you even more. I don't know. Put the pressure on me. You can go into the settings for shadows and change the walking speed, lower it, and sprinting should be more noticeable. It's maxed by default. Is that why? Digital Foundry just released a tech review for Atomfall with the Pro included with the other consoles. How's it shaping up? Jack Garland says, give me Confetto, and I owe you guys a member. Thank you so much, Jack Garland. I appreciate it so much. Let me go in here and reset that. I will gift a member. Every 5 super chats, you guys make me pay it forward. And this is the only time I actually add to the total. You guys can make me add to the total. Wait, what did you do in this picture this time? I don't see anything different in that picture. We're inside a supercomputer watching memories of dead people. How much more can they evolve the game without making a game entirely in the present day? Well, yeah, I mean, I think the reason people got formulaic the reason they got formulaic is because, or I'm sorry, the reason people criticized it for being formulaic is because it almost felt like every single time you would play the game, you kind of knew that it was going to be like, oh, I know where I'm going to go, I know what I'm going to do. It just became predictable. AC Origins kind of broke from that mode, but then Odyssey and Valhalla expanded on that. So like Origins really broke, and then they just kind of did it again. So I get it. I get what people would be frustrated by. What is that back there? Is that supposed to be my chair? Shorts creators, starting on March 31st, Shorts Fuse will count the number of times your short starts to play or replay with no minimum watch time to give you a deeper understanding of your reach. This update won't impact earnings or partnership eligibility. Okay, so they're adjusting how shorts track views, or I don't know. Oh, I couldn't tell that it was Jimmy Neutron. Sorry. That's funny. That means romance isn't canon, it's optional. King George Washington is historically accurate? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep. You don't even need to buy a microtransaction to progress. If you buy micros for a single-player game, I'm going to knock it down to your bad. Well, I don't know if I would go that harsh on it, though, Ryan. There are plenty of people are not understanding. People are not understanding that it's a joke. So I tweeted out Parasito's image and I said, I have an announcement to make. Are you guys not catching that he gave me like literally a child's chair? People think this is real. They're like, yo, congrats. Brothers, please look at the image. It's a short joke. Holy crap. It's a short joke. It's literally a chair for a child. They're on Twitter. They're like, yo, congrats, man. I'm like, did you look at the image? It's a chair for a child. Oh my gosh. We're cooked. We are so cooked, chat. Oh my gosh. A chair built for Lono. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Lono, the Keebler elf of gaming. Yeah, apparently. It's a historically accurate chair. It's a video game, not a documentary. Historically accurate is a weird hill to die on. I would like somebody to explain to me why being historically accurate suddenly mattered. That's what I want to know. Somebody's got to argue that. They marketed it that way. When and how? When did they market and say their games were historically accurate? When? When I was working with Leonardo da Vinci to make like assassination gadgets? Was that them? I don't understand what you're saying. Didn't they make a statement about the accuracy of this game in particular? I want to see it. Where did they say and what did they say? They hired a historian that turned out to be selling his own book. The devs used terms for the Shadows marketing at the very start. They did for Shadows. If you want to compel me, I need to see what they said. Because we've done this time and time again. Someone comes in, makes a claim, we look up the thing, and we're like, yeah, that's not really what they said. Like Assassin's Creed Unity, this is a work of fiction, redesigned, developed, and produced by a multicultural team of various religions, faiths, and beliefs. They said that in Unity. I want to know, like, where did they say that the game would be historically accurate? I don't remember seeing that anywhere. I don't remember ever thinking that about Assassin's Creed. I thought the point was you would go to historical locations so you could do almost like this historical tourism, but they were never like, oh yeah, the game itself is going to be entirely historically accurate. Like in one of the earliest games, like Leonardo da Vinci is helping you make stuff to kill people. I'm like, and scale buildings. Like that's completely made up. Right? They entertain the idea of, here's a historical figure that invented things. We're gonna fictionalize that and make him make stuff for you. Is that something that Leonardo da Vinci did? I don't think so. Okay, so here we go. They want the game to be as authentic as possible. All right, where's the original statement? They did an interview with GameIndustry.biz. 4 years offers the right balance to make the new Assassin's Creed game. Lead producer Carl shares insight into what it takes to build a new Assassin's Creed. So I don't want to read somebody's, like, ripped out a quote. Here he goes. Assassin's Creed is one of the industry's leading franchises, so it's not an IP that Ubisoft will cut corners on. One aspect of the series that is widely admired is its commitment to historical accuracy within the confines of a fictional story, of course, and that is something that can't be rushed. Okay, we are trying to create a game that is as authentic as possible. It's something we take pride in. And that is also a very long process. When we build a Japanese house from feudal Japan, it's very different from, say, a French medieval house or an English one. So you have to learn, as artists, where things go inside a feudal Japanese house. Maybe the food doesn't go there. You have to get everything you need to know and learn it, and the process is long. So this, to me, the context of what he's saying is, you could criticize the cherry blossoms and, like, what was it, like the watermelons or whatever, and say that's not authentic to the location in that season of time, and that's a fair criticism. But within the context of what he's saying is, he's like, we want to make sure when you go into a house or look at a house, it looks authentic. It looks like, yep, that's what a house would look like in feudal Japan. He is speaking to quite literally what I just said a moment ago. We would go to historical locations, experience historical tourism, but it's a fictional story. I'm going to a historical location, but then I'm climbing buildings with a gadget that Leonardo da Vinci made for me. Where's the historical accuracy there? Where is it? The pattern of these games has always been, you go to an environment where the buildings are one-to-one, where the structures are built with care, and it's like, wow, this is what it would have looked like if I would have climbed a building in London or in Egypt or in Baghdad. But you're in a fictional environment where Da Vinci's making you gadgets, or you're fighting the Pope, or George Washington is a king. But sure, you can rip that quote from context and say, well, they wanted to be as authentic as possible, and Yasuke's not a samurai. Like, oh, okay. Well, that's not what he was talking about. That's not what he was talking about. To me, this is right in line with everything I've ever expected from the company. If you're going to take me to a historical location, you're going to nail it. It's going to look exactly the way that it's supposed to look. And again, you could criticize the cherry blossoms being in bloom during the wrong season, or the watermelons that shouldn't have been in season, or something like that. But again, in this environment, he's speaking directly to, we want the buildings to look authentic. We want you to go inside of a building and it to look authentic, so that when you're in this space, this time and space, it looks like that time and space. And to a degree, when Yasuke shows up, It's authentic. They react to the fact that he looks different. It would have been very glib and it would have been very disingenuous for Yasuke to just show up and to nobody to comment on the fact that he was taller and darker than everybody else. It's authentic to the time and place that they'd be like, who the frick is this guy? Like, they're actually authentic even with his presence in the game. It's authentic. It's like, yeah, that's exactly how they would have reacted. They would have been intrigued. Some of them would have been, maybe some of them would have been unkind, because people do that when they see somebody who doesn't look like them. That's common, especially when you're in a very insulated society. So again, you want to cherry pick that quote and be like, oh, they didn't make it authentic because we don't have grounds to say whether or not Yasuke was a samurai. We don't have grounds to say that Leonardo da Vinci would have made gadgets to scale buildings and kill people, and yet he's a pretty historical figure that does that in one of the video games. So imagining that, well, we know Yasuke existed. We know he was in the region at that time. We know he was with Nobunaga in some way. Let's imagine an environment where he would have become a samurai. Let's imagine an environment where Leonardo da Vinci would be making gadgets for an assassin. I was hoping that Nobunaga fist bumped Yasuke and said, I've got some sunshine in my pocket. Their argument is we don't use Da Vinci as the protagonist. But here's the thing. Da Vinci is one of the most significant catalysts to you being able to kill people and assassinate people. He's like a main player. It's so ridiculous. It's like, what? You talk about a historical figure that we know the things he did, the things he wrote, the things that he created, and they've got him making stuff for an assassin. Da Vinci. What if Da Vinci did that and Ubisoft has info that we don't know? Shut up. Yeah. Shut up. They have the secret Da Vinci files. Yeah. I mean, yeah. There's a work of fiction by, I believe what was his name, Dan Brown. He wrote the Da Vinci Code. And there were Christians and there were Catholics that took great offense to his work of fiction at the time. It was a work of fiction. Who cares? Replace Yasuke with some white dude and nobody would have talked about it. Right, like when you watch The Last Samurai and Tom Cruise's character is compelling to Katsumoto. Katsumoto is like, this guy fights with the courage of a tiger, and he had a dream as well, right? They're very mystical, so he believes that this dream meant he should take an interest in this white man. And then this white man trains with the samurai, which could have been considered pretty shameful. I don't know. I'm not an expert on samurai. And the introduction of Yasuke to Nobunaga is very similar. It's extremely similar. It's like Nobunaga's a warrior, and he sees a man sitting before him that is a warrior. He's aware of his surroundings. He's aware of potential threats. He's large. He's seemingly very strong, and he sees potential in that warrior. It's so analogous to The Last Samurai and Katsumoto taking an interest in a white guy who can fight. It's like, it's the same thing. It's the same idea. It's the same type of story. And that, to me, is a cool story. I said after the introduction, I was like, I'd watch a freaking TV show of this. This would be awesome. Watching him train, he's a big brute. The whole dynamic would have been interesting, like lacking finesse, lacking control, being more of a brute strength, build, but also maybe even personality. And that juxtaposition within samurai training would have been cool to see, I think. Can anyone fill me on what Loto's Twitter post was about? It's a meme, Light Leap. They keep posting. Marvel's getting ready to do an announcement, and they keep showing those chairs with names on the back of them. And somebody AI'd me a chair, and it's a child's chair. It's a short joke. It's literally an image that's making fun of me. People think it's real. People think it's real. It's a joke. Yeah, it's the cast for Doomsday, I believe. GameSpot. GameSpot, did they steal your picture to do this? Is that the same? Is that the same picture? I wonder. I wonder if they saw my joke and they stole it and put Paddington on it. Let's see if it's the same picture. I don't think it is. Hang on. Oh, wait. Did they have Ant-Man? I thought you used AI. Did they put Paul Rudd on that chair? I thought you used AI, Parasito. Was that actually in the footage? Marvel did the joke with Paul Rudd. Oh, I thought Paris used AI to do it. I didn't realize that was actually in it. He just photoshopped my name on it. Oh, okay. I saw GameSpot doing it, and I was like, yo, did they use your image, Paris? I thought he like shoved it into Grok and said, make a child's chair with the name Lono on it or something. Samanosuke, the main character of Onimusha, is a historical figure too. Killing yokai in feudal Japan is not historically accurate. You don't see all the outrage over that. I will never, ever hold back and say that... I will never say that Ubisoft didn't take enough care with certain things. They had icons wrong. They had that pre-order bonus that was like supposed to be like a shrine for some. It was a memorial for like one of the nukes or something. And it's like you giving that away as a thing. They definitely lacked the care that we saw go into Tsushima. Tsushima was so carefully built and they honored that island and those people so much that they are now honorary ambassadors of the island of Tsushima. Yeah, the broken Torii Gate. I will be on your side every day of the week if you're like, Ubisoft did not take great enough care with how they handled some of this stuff. I jump off the train when you have a problem with Yasuke. I'm like, this is freaking stupid. This is a cool idea. I actually think it's a really cool idea. I think if the game would have come out 2 or 3 years ago, nobody would have cared. But the cultural, temperature around this changed because there's been, race swaps in shows and movies that, people didn't take too kindly to. And that has created this idea that there's some kind of a movement and this is bad. It certainly doesn't help that, internally Disney was saying if it's male and pale, it's stale. And they were, actively moving to make sure they had, more representation of both women and persons of color, right? And that obviously doesn't go over well with the culture that's like, what the frick are you doing? Why are you doing this, right? Recent Snow White movies kind of sitting in a similar vein, right? Well, so I think what that does is it makes everybody edgy. It's like, so they see Yasuke and that's the first thing they think. They think it's diversity dust. They think it's like a race swap. It's like, listen, I've been very critical of, I coined the term diversity dust. I literally coined that term. I did a podcast with a guy once and I just was like, it feels like diversity dust. It feels glib and disingenuous. You're just sprinkling it on the movie to like get virtue points from people. And race swapping too. I always feel like that's very contrived. It's like, well, that's what people of this race would want, right? It's like, no, what the frick? No. Like, so I get it. But I think you need to do, proper analysis and thought before coming to the conclusion. And when I looked into the situation with AC Shadows, I was like, I just think this is just such a non-story. It's just a non-starter in my mind. It was not some weird contrived thing. When the crux of your culture war is pop culture, you have no culture. But that's a different discussion for a different day. Race swapping has been going on, but now it's not a problem. But it's not a race swap. You can't claim race swap. They didn't change a character from a white person to a black person, King Deuce. You're not even using the term properly. You're not. It's not like they announced the game, had a Japanese man as the lead, and then suddenly decided to change it. They believe it is. I don't care what they believe. I care about what's true. I don't care what they believe. I care about what's true. It's not a race swap. It's like the people claiming that the South of Midnight is a race swap. It's not true. Yasuke was historically black. Yeah. That's what I'm saying. We know him. We know about him. We know he existed. I don't have any problem. No, there's no problem. We can have a discussion, King Deuce. I'm not going to ban you. We had a red badge long-standing member, this morning discussing why he wouldn't play AC Shadows. Historically black. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. You cannot claim race swap if the person of the character is based on somebody who is actually the race of the game character. The real Yasuke was black, so the game character is black. End of story. That's right. Why does his skin color being historically accurate but nothing else? No. You're conflating categories now, Inno. No. If you're talking about the category of race swap, you can't argue race swap because he looks how he's supposed to look, right? He looks like an African man. Now, if you want to talk about historical accuracy to whether or not he was a samurai, that's not needed because it's a fictional story. So what the story decides to do with the characters, the narrative, and the development is it doesn't matter. Nobunaga can get assassinated by a team of ninjas. We don't know. I think we actually do know how he was killed, because I believe there was a story where Yasuke doesn't let them cut off his head out of as a way to honor his body or something, right? They could fictionalize how Nobunaga dies. It doesn't matter. It's a fictional story. Nobunaga could get pushed off a cliff by somebody he thinks is his friend. It doesn't matter. Once you're into the story, you can kind of do whatever you want. Now within reason, right? Like if a UFO shows up and abducts Yasuke and gives him a laser gun and says, "Yeah, go take out the people who previously owned you because slavery's bad." Okay. Well, then you could say, "Okay, well now you've left the confines of the game. You've left what is I think a reasonable boundary that the game has set up." Oh, you do find out in the game how Nobunaga dies. Okay. So once you're in the story, Assassin's Creed has made it very clear they don't go for historical accuracy in the story. They don't. It's like they've historically they have traditionally made their games where all sorts of nonsense is going on. You fight the Pope and he's a wizard. Is that historically accurate? Was the Pope a wizard? I don't think so. I don't think that he was. I don't think Da Vinci was making gadgets for an assassin either. But isn't that a fun and creative thing to do? I think that's a fun and creative thing to do. I think it's a cool moment in the Assassin's Creed game where you're like, oh, Da Vinci's going to help me. Neat. Magic is against Catholic dogma. Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, yeah. Or any sort of Orthodox Catholic belief would be very much against, divination, magic, any of that, for sure. Lono, you can come back to the cookouts. I was never uninvited. That's why the marketing as authentic as possible became an issue. then don't say that at all. He didn't say it as a form of marketing. He said it in an interview with GameIndustry.biz, and it was part of a larger statement. We are trying to be as authentic as possible. It's something we take pride in. And that's a long process. When we build a Japanese house in feudal Japan, it's very different from, say, a French medieval house and an English one. The context of this discussion is not about the story. It isn't. And this is directly in line with things that they have always talked about. They pride themselves on it being like a form of like historical tourism. You get to go to a location that looks like the location. You get to climb a building that looks like the building. They're not saying anything in that paragraph that's out of step with the history of the franchise. They've said things like this before. Did anybody blast them and say, well, you're all about making the game authentic, but why is the Pope a wizard? Why is George Washington the king? Why is Da Vinci making gadgets for an assassin? Nobody did that because everybody understood that you were playing a totally made up story in a location that looked authentic to the time. Like, oh wow, this is crazy. This is crazy. I'm getting to climb a building that actually existed back then. Which is why I said you could criticize the cherry blossoms that were in bloom in the wrong season. You can criticize the watermelons that shouldn't have been there, and the one like town shop or whatever. All right, it is almost 1. So here's what we'll do. I'll give you guys, I've been more prone just to go to Green Room because then that gives me more time to make my stuff, and then it gives me more time to play Death Stranding. But I'm going to give you guys an opportunity to extend. I'll give you till 1:30. I'll give you a little 30-minute window here. We'll need to be on pace for me to extend, though. We need to end today at 300 to be on pace for the week. If you do that, I'll extend. We'll keep streaming. We'll keep hanging out. If not, we'll just go to Green Room. I like to give you guys the opportunity to control the channel in that way, and that's why I always say, make sure you're celebrating your renewals. Make sure that you're on Member Plus. So, where are you in Death Stranding? Chapter 8, 7 or 8, somewhere in there. I'm kind of boomeranging. The boomeranging last night, it annoyed me a teeny bit. Went all the way to one spot and then had to go all the way back. And that's why people were saying, build zip lines. So I'm like 32 hours in, 62% of the way through the game, according to it. So I'm actually... It was the worst time to pick to replay it, but I've got to play the game. I really do think that like Death Stranding 2... Death Stranding 2 is going to be, I think, the game of the year. Front runner, personally, I think that. So I got to play it, but I'm kind of mad at myself. Like, I would love to be playing AC Shadows right now. And then yesterday, I played First Berserker, and I was like, this is such a fun game. And I was playing it on easy. If you're going to get First Berserker and play it on easy, you might want to watch my stream, because the dodge windows and parry windows are still just as punishing. You've got to be super precise, but you take less damage, and I think you consume less stamina. So you're not going to be able to like button mash your way through that game on easy. I wouldn't even call it an easy mode. I would call it like, I don't even know what I would call it. It's just more generous. It's like, okay, you're not going to die as fast, but you're not going to beat the bosses, and you're not going to find success in First Berserker Kazan if you're just button mashing. You will get absolutely obliterated. Like, you've got to nail the parries. You've got to memorize telegraphs. So it's still going to be a really tough game, even on easy. So, you're going to try and finish AC Shadows? I would like to. I would really like to. I was hoping they would add co-op relatively soon, because they said, like, they've got all these plans for the game, and I was wanting to play that game with my wife. That would be a great way for me to, work on the game every evening. Easy mode gives you more opportunities to get it right. that's a good way of saying it. Like, easy mode's like, hey, you made a mistake and got caught in a flurry, and instead of just dying, you're like half health. So then you can heal and try again. On normal, some of the flurries from that boss, I mean, he'll make light work of you. You'll be dead in the blink of an eye. So, yeah. Leaning into the meme, PlayStation tweeted the God of Morning routine. This is the internet. The internet is so. The internet can be such a place of joy and mirth. Like, it's just so undefeated. I absolutely love how they're just absolutely memeing on these health guys, these content creators that just. I like how they zoomed in. They zoomed in on his face. Oh man. Yeah, there's a Nintendo Direct tomorrow. I don't know. I don't know if we're going to cover it. It's just going to be about games coming to Switch. I think what's way more interesting to me is the one next week about the Switch 2. Like, I'm not dying to hear about Switch games, you know? Especially because time of day. Like, it just consumes our talk show. I mean, we may do it just because that's kind of our thing is we cover live events, so we may do it, but I don't know. We'll figure that out in Green Room, which we're going to go to Green Room in 30 minutes. You guys can extend the stream. You'd have to go a little crazy with a member train to get us to 300, and we'll extend. We've not been extending that much lately, and that's totally okay. That's totally fine. It gives us a little bit more time in Green Room. You know. POT 2 season vid tomorrow. We might get Kirby. Yeah. It seems odd a week before the Switch 2 announcement. The only thing I could think, Ryan, is that they had marketing agreements and contracts with games. And so, I don't know. I don't know. Like, that would be my only thought, is they have agreements that they have to honor. So they have to be like, yeah, we've got to do this. We've got to make sure that we do a direct and promote these games, and then maybe at the direct they say something to the effect of like, hey, you may have tuned into our direct last week. You know, all those games are going to be, you know, backwards compatible on the Switch too. I don't know. They probably have a bunch of second-party stuff to show off. Xbox ports, maybe. Yeah, I didn't think about that. Because according to Tom Warren, there's a lot of more ports coming to PlayStation and Nintendo, and we haven't really seen that come to fruition for Nintendo this year that much. It's been mainly PlayStation, so I don't know. We'll see. What time is it tomorrow? Because I think it'll eat right into it's 10 a.m. Eastern. And that really does line up with our talk show. We'll probably just co-stream it if I'm honest with you. I don't know. And then maybe we could play that AI limit game. We could watch it, talk about it. You know, I would think we get a pretty decent turnout because people are going to be just hungry for Switch 2 stuff. And they're not going to get it, obviously, but we actually had a really strong start with this video, and I'm kind of curious where folks were coming from. I wasn't checking like during the stream. Impressions are terrible. It was mostly browse and suggest. Yeah, the impression count's crazy low. Probably because there's just not much going on. Usually when something, bigger is happening. Although we got really bad impressions on the gameplay yesterday for Kazan. It seems like every once in a while we get stuck on like the Indiana Jones live stream from the other day, and then the GTA 6 trailer one yesterday. We got really, really high on the impressions, and then if we touch something that's a little bit more dry, and then when we covered AC Shadows, we did really well also. Today's been pretty bad. You came from the channel page? Yeah, I did. The impression count for today's stream is terrible. We had a big turnout, but it was nobody new. I could kind of tell. Subs weren't going, view count wasn't going. It was mainly the core audience, and I was like, I don't know. Nintendo's always a bit touchy with us. It's always a bit touchy with us. But I think the Switch 2 could change that. I think more and more of the people that hang out here are going to be more prone to take the Switch 2 a little bit more seriously. Like when we did our Switch 2 reaction to the announcement, that went well for us. So we've always struggled to cover Nintendo because I think a lot of the people here just aren't really down with Nintendo, and I'm hoping the Switch 2 can kind of change that. In the hospital right now, another 2 stents in my ticker. Well, hopefully it helps, Dan. Talk show as in a guest coming? No, like the daily talk show that we do. Gaming News Today is our daily talk show that we do. And so that would replace that tomorrow if we co-streamed the direct. But that's kind of what we do. We co-stream live events. So it is oddly timed, but the news cycle is just so dead. I mean, there's nothing going on right now. AC Shadows kind of dropped and has taken over, and I didn't want to talk about it again today. We ended up talking about it again today, even though it wasn't on the title and thumb. But it's obvious on everybody's minds, and when the Assassin's Creed Shadows tweet gets like 30-something million views and climbing, it's now at 34 million views, just bodying, it was, the ratio is amazing. It's just diabolical. We got new details for the Liza P. Overture. The story will be accessible seamlessly from around Chapter 9 of the base game. Just wanted to gift a member. Thank you for the $5 super chat. Symbol the Rapper. I appreciate that. That means the new story is integrated into the original as opposed to being a completely standalone tale. We never saw the development of Overture as a separate entity. With the base game and the expansion together, we believe that the whole entire thing delivers the game that Liza P. as it was supposed to be experienced. We just couldn't do that early on. It's roughly 15 to 20 hours to complete Overture for experienced players. 2 of the new weapons are a bow and claws, though not much was given away by Choi. Lastly, when it comes with the DLC will actually be, Choi told IGN in a separate interview that players should replay the base game. He says that there are various clues throughout that give hints as to what you'll get in Overture. He also made it clear that the final cutscene of the game is unrelated to what will be in Overture. That scene, don't worry, no spoilers here, is a tease for future adventures of the developer. Okay. So no companion fighting with you and no co-op. I kind of thought I took that shot pretty early. I thought that they were hinting co-op or a companion that's always with you. It's also not a complete standalone. It isn't. You need to get to like chapter 9 in the game to play it. You just started Shadows Mash? Make sure, I strongly encourage people to play it with the Japanese audio. Do not play it with the English. If you're okay with reading the subtitles, it really, really helps the story. It really helps Naoe especially. So, all right, you guys got 24 minutes to extend. We've had crazy scrambles before, but you're going to need a big scramble today, and that's okay. You guys that are at Member Plus and VIP, your show continues. That's another great reason to jump in, become Member Plus, or upgrade. Your show does not end when we go to the green room. It does not end, so you get to continue on with us. And we kind of break down the news, the cycle, what we think we're going to cover tomorrow. We'll probably actually have to include that Liza P thing. I closed the article. I'm going to need to find that again. I'm scrolling down to Marvel Stream. Everybody's just retweeting it. There we go. I have like a room in the Discord that I use to like dump stuff in. There was a screenshot from the Game Informer website that did seem to indicate, actually, we're not going to need any of this for tomorrow because we're just going to co-stream the direct, I think, unless I get talked out of it in the green room. I may get talked out of it in the green room. Super blippers, blip, super blip, big blip, yep, big blip. It is not on my end. Yeah, it's not on my end. I didn't have a fluctuation of my bit rate or anything. Yeah, it's back. YouTube got a YouTube. At least it happened late in the stream. At least it happened late in the stream. I saw the chat moving fast all of a sudden, and I was like, oh, are we getting gifteds? No, just a blip. Every time Lona says, and that's okay, I have to think about that one Avowed vid that we watched. Huh? Metroid Prime 4 is most likely a Switch 2 release game. Been in the works for a very long time, was rumored to be released by now. That's why I believe it will be released game for the Switch 2. I actually think you're wrong because, well, you could be right. Given what we know right now, I think you're wrong because according to a pretty reliable insider, that Metroid game will not be at the Switch 2 Direct. So it may be coming later. I think it's also cross-gen. Lord Horde gifts a member, and he's like, come on, boys, many hands make light work. Let's make a run for this, and bumps the line to 228. Thank you, Lord Horde. I think they sandbag it. I think, and again, I don't have any evidence to this. I think they're going to focus on exclusives first. I think their biggest and strongest push, and again, I can be totally wrong on this. Nintendo could see this different than me. But I think they're going to want to make people feel like I've got to jump. I've got to get the new Switch. And they're going to focus on games that are Switch 2 only. Their marketing may be completely opposite of what I'm saying, but that's what I think they're going to do. They're going to come out swinging with Mario Kart and other titles that you will not be able to get on the Switch 1. And then later, when they start getting into like third party and other titles like the Metroid game, that Metroid game will be cross-gen. That's just what I think. I could be wrong. But I feel like Switch 2 Direct is going to heavily focus on these games are only available on Switch 2, and then they'll probably focus on games like Breath of the Wild and what they're going to look like on the Switch 2, like the bump that they're going to get. Neil Druckmann on Intergalactic. I will say we were planning at the office is incredible. I'm excited to finally put gameplay out into the world and show people about it because we wanted to show you the very, very tip of the we just showed you the tip of the iceberg. It goes pretty deep beyond that. I'll save that. Thank you. You believe it shows up tomorrow because it's on the OG Switch? I would actually kind of agree with you, JC, because they originally announced it as coming to the Switch 1. And a single gifted comes in from JC. You guys got 19 minutes. You're making a little bit of a play here. It's not bad. You might tempt the big boys. You get that to sit on that 230. You could tempt a 20 bomb. You could. They like to do it. They like to dunk home the big ones. So thank you for that, JC. I wonder if they give a date for Legends ZA. What's that? I heard Intergalactic is going to have Elden Ring-like gameplay. No, that's why these guys have always got to be careful when they do these interviews to not say things like that. They basically said that they took inspiration from Elden Ring with respect to like open world, non-traditional storytelling. So I don't think they're going to go for like a super linear storytelling like they typically do. Oh, Pokemon Legends ZA. Oh, sorry. I was like, what are you talking about? If that makes sense. Like, I don't think they're going to give you like an open world Elden Ring experience. I think what they're trying to say is we're not going to do like super linear storytelling like we've done in the past. I don't think they're going to do that. I don't think they're going to give you like this big giant open world like in Elden Ring. I think what he was doing is he was contrasting it to what they've traditionally done in their games like The Last of Us, where it's extremely linear. It's point A, point B, point A, point B, story scene. Like, excuse me. If you look at, there's an open environment. There's only like one. There's really only one area, I think, like this. I don't think there's very many that I remember. But there's a pretty open area early on in The Last of Us Part 2. There's a lot of buildings, and there's just like this, there's like a highway, and there's this big grassy open area. And that, I think, is what they're thinking, like more open, less linear design, and more environmental storytelling as well. So instead of just like telling you, oh, you know, yeah, Steve used to live here, and Steve had a dog, and the dog's out back. Like, you'll walk into a place where all those things will be evident to you if you're sort of observing the environment. So, that, I took his comments as to meaning that. I don't think they're going to try to mimic Elden Ring in any other way. He was speaking kind of specifically to open, player freedom, non-linear storytelling, and that's what he was primarily driving at. We were saying a minute ago is Nintendo was supposed to launch Zelda Breath of the Wild on the Wii U. It turned out to be a Nintendo Switch release game, but also available on the Wii U. I'm not sure why are you bringing that up? What are you saying that in regards to? Showing as opposed to telling. You guys got 15 minutes. We're checking the news feeds right now to see if anything's kind of going on worth discussing. Unless something convinces me otherwise, it looks like we're probably going to be co-streaming the Nintendo Direct tomorrow, which will have no updates about the Switch 2. They keep pushing the Ben Studio keeps pushing announcements and reminders about Days Gone Remastered. Another game I'm going to have to go back to that I didn't finish on PC. I got like 15 or 16 hours in and was enjoying it, and probably going to end up having to, obviously start fresh. The No Man's Sky update just dropped. Yeah, the Relics update. It looked pretty cool. I wish I had time for No Man's Sky, dude. They've done a lot of great updates for that game. I think the issue is that games like Elden Ring were never invested heavily into the story set pieces. That's going to be hard for Naughty Dog to avoid the temptation of creating all these structured story beats in their world. I'm assuming they're still going to have the more traditional story beats. Matthew Amos jumps back in and sets us up nicely. 230. We'll see if anybody takes the bait to drop the 20 bomb to 250. If you guys want to extend the stream, we got to hit 300. You could do it. You're going to need the big boys to save you, though. I slept on Days Gone, and not because of the reviews. I was huge into Destiny like you were. What are your thoughts on Berserker? I liked the beta and the demo, and I was able to beat all the bosses on normal difficulty in the beta and the demo. So I wanted to try out easy mode, and I wanted to show people easy mode. As far as I can tell, all easy mode does is you take less damage and you use less stamina. And so if you think you're going to play through first Berserker Kazan on easy mode and just like breeze through it, that's not going to happen. It is still tough. You still have to hit the parry windows and the dodge windows. I mean, the enemy will still beat the living tar out of you. You still have to play the game on the game's terms. Like, I think that we could potentially make a video about that game and say, like, this is easy modes done right. Like, people that always ask for easy mode. You know what's funny? People that always ask for easy mode, First Berserker Kazan shows that it doesn't really give you what you want. It doesn't make the game easy. It doesn't. It doesn't. It's still the same game. I still think people that don't like games like that and they don't like getting hyper punished by games like that, I'm here to tell you, they will not play First Berserker Kazan and be like, oh, I'm so glad they added easy mode. I can now play this game and have an easy time. Nope. The easy mode in First Berserker Kazan shows that, like, you really can't do an actual bona fide easy mode. You can't do it because it would completely change the fabric of the game, even in First Berserker Kazan. According to Jeff Grubb, this is the reason why we heard about the Direct. The reason I learned about the Nintendo Direct is because of a partner game, and there's going to be a game that will cause a lot of conversation, and it's not necessarily a Nintendo one. Really. I'll save that. You guys have 11 minutes. 11 minutes to extend the stream. We'll see if you guys can pull out a crazy showstopper. If not, no worries. We will go to Green Room. And we always have a good time in the Green Room. Kelsey Grammer looks like they're going to bring back his version of Beast. I think we'll be piecing the story together through deeper exploration than previous Naughty Dog titles. And Wooly jumps in. Is that an upgrade, Wooly? That isn't unprecedented for them, as they placed plenty of side stories in Tilu. It'll be like more of it. If that's an upgrade, that's worth 2. Thank you, my friend. Appreciate that support of the channel. Indiana Jones is tracking as the #1 pre-order game on the PlayStation Store right now. Forza Horizon is second, ahead of Death Stranding 2. How much you want to bet that the Grifters make that a news story? What's the news story? Popular franchises sell well on a game platform where people buy games? What? Doesn't that run contrary to all the narrative that, like, PlayStation guys don't buy games? Doesn't that show that they do? That, like, the PlayStation fan base is happy to buy games? Oh, no. Is this the Trojan horse strategy? Are we back to that? Let me check the back end and see if that was an upgrade. I got to add it to the total, but I got to know what I'm adding here. And I'm going to go to Member Plus and above. And well, Matthew, you look like you were an upgrade. Wooly was a renewal. I'm not sure why it didn't show yours as an upgrade, Matthew. He already said PlayStation first party is not usually in the top 10, which is categorically false. Yes, I saw the claim that PlayStation first party studios. Let me directly quote what was stated. I'm not interested in attacking anybody, but I'm just going to look at what was stated. What was stated is PlayStation first party doesn't often hit top 10 on PS5. That's demonstrably false. That statement is false. That is not true. I think that's so false that deserves a community note, to be quite honest. You did Member Plus. Let me count that as an upgrade then, Matthew. Thank you so much. We're at 2:32. 8 minutes. If you guys want to extend the stream, you're going to have to go insane in the next 8 minutes. However, if you upgrade to Member Plus, your day does not end here. You get to continue with us. They don't care? Yeah, a tweet like that I just think is completely unnecessary. Like, you're literally just saying something that is demonstrably false. It's easy to prove that false. The first party games from PlayStation are, what do you mean they don't go to top 10? They're always in the top 10. What do you mean? They'll be in the top 10 after they've been out for like a year. Like Spider-Man 2 was showing up in the top 10 like a year after it came out, months after it came out. Like, what are we even talking about? Saying that's ridiculous. There's no reason to say that. Why don't you just celebrate the fact that the games are doing well? You can't just celebrate the fact that like Indiana Jones and Forza are doing well. We have to say something that isn't true? I just don't get it. I don't get it. I think you're going to make it really easy. I think you're going to make it really easy for listeners, viewers, and gamers to just start going elsewhere for their information. I think the more that people peddle the people who just repeat everything Phil says and defend everything Phil says, I think, a lot of those guys are already on a path to irrelevancy. Like, nobody wants to listen to that because I think a lot of the Xbox loyal don't trust Phil anymore. And then when you're just going to flat out say something that isn't true, I don't know. Anybody with a brain knows that isn't true, that PlayStation first party games are almost always in the top 10 because they're hugely popular. Like, it doesn't stand to scrutiny. It doesn't stand to reason. You could look at that when they put that report out, they put out their own report about it. Like, so in January, right, Gran Turismo 7 and Marvel Spider-Man 2 were in the top 10 of January of 2024. That's not even when those frickin' games came out, and they're in the top 10. February of 2024, Helldivers 2 was the number 1. There you go. First party published game. That's a first party game. March of 2024, Helldivers 2, MLB The Show. Rise of the Ronin. Those are all first party published games from PlayStation. April, Helldivers, number 1 spot. Stellar Blade, number 2 spot. Okay. May, Helldivers is up there again. Stellar Blade is up there again. June, MLB The Show is up there again. Helldivers is up there again. July, MLB is up there again. So that one would be one where it was just MLB. August of 2024, Marvel Spider-Man 2 is back up there. We haven't had a month without one yet in 2024. Okay, September, Astrobot is up there. October, we might have one, boys. We might have one. October, it looks like, because of Black Ops, probably. Black Ops is at the tippity top. So in October, well, wait, Silent Hill 2's on there. Was that published? Silent Hill 2 publisher? Who published it? Yeah, that was not published by Sony. Okay. So I would think it was an exclusive, but it wasn't published by Sony. Okay, so there you go. You got a month. You got October. November, Spider-Man's back up there again in the top 10. And then December, Spider-Man and Astrobot are both up there. So the claim has been absolutely falsified. 11 out of 12 months in 2024, there was a first-party game in the top 10 from PlayStation. They put out their reports. Now, I was just looking at the U.S., so we could look at the EU, but in the U.S., every single month, there was a first-party game in the top 10. If we just look at the EU, in January, you had Gran Turismo 7, Spider-Man 2, and The Last of Us Part 2. And then the next month, you had Helldivers. You had, and that was it in the EU. That's fine. That's one. Helldivers the next month. Rise of the Ronin again. And then the next month, April, you had Helldivers and Stellar Blade. So even in the EU, you've got consistently first-party published games or first-party owned games. That's what we're going to call first-party, right? So again, I don't understand. That's a community note. That's a lie. I mean, we just need to call it what it is. It's a lie. That's not true. And what's crazy to me is 2024 was light on first-party studios, but if you look at the first-party publishing efforts, the exclusive efforts from Sony, the games were commonly in the top 10. For it to happen 1 month out of the entire year last year, and I guarantee you if we go to the years prior, 2023, 2022, it's probably the same. The first party games are up there consistently. Spider-Man 2 has consistently jumped back up into the top 10 well after it came out. All right, I'm going to schedule Green Room. It looks like we're not extending, and that's okay. If you are Member Plus, this does not affect you. You get to continue. You get to come on to the next segment. Done. Is Silent Hill going to come to Xbox? I actually don't know who owns that. I'm not sure. Okay. Let me set up redirects. Do I owe you guys members? I do. I owe you 5. Let me do that right now. It's owned by Konami. Oh, well, there you go. So it could come over. I mean, PlayStation didn't publish it. All right, I'm going to spam a link in chat. If you want to come with us, grab yourself a membership. Click join, upgrade to plus. I know sometimes if you're on a gifted, it doesn't let you upgrade to plus. That's a really great reason to, as soon as possible, get out of the gifted pool because sometimes it keeps you there and you can't get out of it. Upgrading on a browser is way easier as well. Thank you so much for being a Member Plus or above. You guys that support the channel directly are a huge reason we're able to do this full time, and that means your talk show doesn't end when the talk show ends. You get morning coffee, you get the daily gaming news show, and then you get this. You get the Green Room where we discuss kind of what's going on in the news cycle and what kind of content and shows we can create. And we're in Green Room a little bit earlier today, and that's good. That might help me kind of plan an upload that I want to make. We haven't done an upload in a little over a week, and we wanted to increase our upload cadence this year, but it's been kind of hard because the news cycle gets a little dry. I'm going to end the previous stream and redirect people over. Make sure and smash